Hey. So now I'm back. I learned a little bit about how to use this StreamYard. I'm going to do this in 1 hour increments. And we are going to go over the data that has been captured in the Hobbs, New Mexico deprivation of rights under the color of law, land usage. We call it illegal detainer incident that's happened through the investigation. So let's start this out. And this is 5 hours content. So I'm going to do this in sections, but we'll go ahead and start it out and talk about this a little bit. So here I started. Here's the air base city, which is the area we're talking about. There's a street called Jack Gomez that moves in. This is Lovington Highway. And right here is Jack Gomez is traveling down. And here's the RV park to the right here. Right here is the Air Force Base property. Right here, I'm taking you to the entrance to show you when you come off here on Lovington Highway and you enter into, it'll scroll down here. I pre-recorded this video, so I didn't quite know how to do this yet. I'm still learning how to do the live presentations. But okay, here's your Jack Gomez. And this is a state trooper office, or no, I'm sorry, National Guard Armory and State Trooper's office. This was state grounds here. And you see state grounds extends over here past Lovington Highway all the way into this area. So all of this is state grounds moving back. I don't know if I drag it all the way back, but moving all the way back to the Air Force Base, which is also owned by the city of Hobbs and has a history that you're going to learn shortly. So let me go ahead and get past this.
Were used to buy federal property for a political subdivision. That was my first question.
So let's go. I mean, I guess I was getting ready to.
Like a private sale, the government was selling. In the city of Hobbs.
Here I am talking to the first clerk, which is a city clerk for the city of Hobbs. And I'm speaking with her concerning facts that are presented to me by Marcus Juarez, which is the trail supervisor, that the Air Force Base property was off limits to the public.
Bought it.
Oh, and he said it was purchased from a private sale when the federal government will put it up for sale, which is, well, you'll find later on to be extremely false.
And we're working from that information. I was wondering if that's actually what happened, and he's not mistaken himself. What kind of tax money was taken to purchase that property? The reason I'm asking is because a lot of political municipalities rely on federal tax dollars to operate. So it was confusing on how if federal tax dollars were used to buy federal property for a political subdivision. That was my first question. The second one was the area where the park resides was a state property at one time.
Let's talk about that. So as I showed you in the map earlier, when you move on to Jack Gomez, you're already on what was state property. And that's where the National Guard Armory, and the state trooper's office is now located, going down Jack Gomez toward what is known as the A Ranch or the Air Force Base.
And apparently, according to the trail supervisor, the state did not have the budget to maintain it, and they just signed it over to the city. And I've never heard of that before. Well, I mean, you look at the grand scheme of things. Typically, federal and state property doesn't convert into political subdivisions unless it benefits the residents of the state as a whole.
Yeah, is that possible?
Right. And then you would have like conversations where the public would put input into how they think it might benefit them or disparage them in any way. And mainly the question comes to mind because now that the Air Force training base that's shut down there, it's no longer available for public usage. So I asked the trail supervisor about that. The taking federal property and then converting it to an area that is no longer available to the public. And he said that it used to be a campground, and private property owners in the city of Hobbs who have RV parks lobbied in efforts to get them to shut that down. And they built this one over here because it was, I guess, too cheap, or is that how he worded it, or it was more affordable, and so it was weighing on private industry or private commercial activity. And during an agreement after the politicking part, that they ended up shutting that down and building this small.
Go a little further here so you can see. I have these same conversations until I find out the entire history of this. I didn't have any pictures of this video because I was going to be here talking to you about it. A few hours into this, I don't know if it'll show me. Let's see who I'm talking to about a half hour in.
Do ours that we're working on without a lot of federal grant money. And if you look at
that's the end of the conversation with the first city clerk, who they didn't really know what was going on with that land. And then now I'm talking to, let's go for about 45 minutes. That conversation lasts about half an hour.
Residents. And this became really big on my mind because I experienced bigotries along the way and biases that seem to be undue. I mean, I owned property in Florida at a time. Now we own property in multiple states, as well as churches. And that's been the development of my life.
And here I explain a little bit about biases and bigotries, and when it comes to people in the RV population. I'm speaking with the city clerk there.
Domain from the Huston family.
Finally, here we go. This is where
and it does it discuss. See, one of the things I specifically.
This is when we finally decide we're going to go to City Hall and find out what's going on.
Hobbs, New Mexico. It is Friday, and they said the City Hall closes at noon, so it is now about 11:40. We're going to try to 11:48. We got about 10 minutes to get in here, and hopefully we can get this paperwork that shows the history of Hobbs and find out how they were able to acquire such a large swath of federal and state land, and then restrict access from the public. We do know that it has to do with World War II.
Okay.
The area was purchased by the city, leased to the Army Air Force during World War II, and had a 25-year lease, $1 a year, and a possible renewal. But we do not know. Economic Development Corporation of LA County.
Let me finish that thought out. What we didn't know at the time was how the land was acquired. The trail supervisor had told us that it was acquired in a federal, it was for sale by the federal government. After the research, we kind of find out that the city of Hobbs threatened condemnation on the Huston family and offered them a small amount of money to take the land from them, far undervalued. The land is currently for sale for $1 billion, though. It was purchased from the Huston family for $8,500. But yeah, they'll sell it to you for $1 billion. You'll find that out. Watch this.
Let's see. We don't know really how that happened, and what happened after the lease had been fulfilled. So now we're really interested in finding out more about that. And city clerk. Hello. Yes, I could pick up a book about the history of Hobbs.
Yeah.
And get you up, I'd already spoke with her on the phone, so she had already had a book ready for me.
Oh, it must have got cold.
Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon. And then, can I get a copy of that? You sure can.
Do you know the area that I'm speaking of specifically, though, right?
Well,
So yeah, what I'm looking at more, I need the lease, okay? I need the lease agreement between the Army Air Force and the city of Hobbs that was signed on February 4th, 1942 and presented to the public on February 7th, 1942.
You hear that, right?
So that lease agreement was for 20...
what was that date?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
They didn't have
February 4th, 1942 was when it was signed.
1 second, I'll say this. So the Hustons didn't lose their land till June of 1942. So they had signed a contract with the federal government to provide 2,480 acres for a training base for the B-17 bombers to get the contract quickly. New Mexico was really interested in those government contracts. And then they presented to the people that they had signed the contract 3 days later, but they didn't have the land yet. So they basically annexed the land by threatening the Huston family with condemnation on land that they'd had for over 40 years in their family, one of the early settlers here in New Mexico. So yeah, it was definitely not on the up and up. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and then it was presented to the public on February 7th, but the February 4th it was signed.
Okay. So, do you have access to internet?
I sent you an email already.
To me?
To Kay Salas?
Yes. What that
King Salas is Kristen Salas, who is also a clerk there.
email what you were requesting?
I sent the first off, I'm not in my suit and tie, but when we do a on-camera interview with someone who could represent the city, I sent a bunch of questions. Was it you? Are you Kate?
It was Kristen.
Kristen, okay. I talked to Kristen and I sent her a series of questions that I wanted to ask a representative of the city concerning the area that was federal land. Actually, it was city land that was leased to the federal government during World War II, and then subsequently, but it was acquired through eminent domain from the Huston family.
Okay. So do you have access to the internet?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what.
What I'm going to request for you to do
Hold on,
is go through the IPRA process, and that's the information of public record.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I did that already.
Trying to
Okay,
say
so
that I
then,
have to file a records request
Kristen gets here,
online.
I'll
Like
read
there's
it, and then
Okay.
we'll process it.
Well, it was a really easy request. I came down here because you said you closed early today.
Correct.
And tomorrow is Saturday, so you're not open.
Correct.
Sunday, you're not open.
Correct.
I am a traveling data analyst. I have to get the paperwork that I need from political subdivisions and then keep going. I can't stick
So
around.
by law, we do have up to 3 days to provide you that record. So today you submitted it. So today is day 1. So then you're going to go to.
Is there anybody here that represents the city of Hobbs?
We do, sir, but you have to.
I was getting frustrated.
No, I understand. Well, by New Mexico.
Here, in case I didn't clear my body language, I'm getting frustrated at this point in time. Nobody wants to answer a simple question. It's because the answer is not so simple, and you'll find that out here shortly.
Mexico law, this is a process. So by New Mexico law, I can be just talking to you, make a records request.
Yes.
So when you start referring me to laws, I know the open records laws like very well.
Okay, so then you would know that you submitted it today, and then we have 3 days to provide you that information.
If the records are readily available within the city hall, I should be able to inspect those records.
To be clear, if anybody hasn't seen on the Homeless Access Project on auditarchives.com, if you go into the under the Department of Justice tab and you look under the certified law enforcement officers, I think it says LEO, but certified officers page, and click on that, and you click on the New Mexico link, you will see that there was a records request put in for the list of their certified officers well over a month and a half ago. So the idea that they have 3 days, the New Mexico's government has yet to show competence in fulfilling records requests.
On site.
Yes, and so I really.
So I'm asking you if they're not.
I have to read and she comes back.
Okay, gotcha. Well, that's why I'm giving you an oral rendition of the email because I'm the one that typed it. I can honor that.
You can just hear from my stuttering. I'm getting so confused or so well.
Here, hold this. I want to look at that. Yes, ma'am. I mean, it's an easy record to get. Don't they just have a microfilm or something they can just print it out, or on a computer? I don't understand what's so difficult. That's why I'm asking. Is there some? It's the city clerk. Yeah, because I ain't trying to give nobody a hard time. I need this record, right. And I'm not trying to stick around at Hobbs.
I feel like
especially when they have ordinances against our lifestyle.
Giving them a hard time, in their opinion. Asking them to do work is giving them a hard time. If you got service like this at Walmart, you'd be shopping at Target every single time.
Yeah, I just need the information I need, and it's not come down to City Hobbs and then wait 3 days and then no.
Acquiring the land.
Okay, so I read. So in this book, it says the land chosen by the War Department was the ranch lying along the west side of Hobbs-Livingston Highway, about 7 miles northwest of Hobbs city limits, belonging to the early homesteader Nat Huston, and managed by his son George and Harry Huston. The Huston Ranch house had originally been a line camp shack for the A Ranch owned by Joseph Hall Graham, Nat Huston's father-in-law. Over the years, the house was remodeled and enlarged by the Huston family, who also built the usual collection of ranch buildings, such as corrals, stables, and other outbuildings. When remodeling the house some years ago, Sally Seed, Nat's granddaughter, and her husband Charlie found wooden boards from food boxes dating 1915, which are used because of the scarcity of lumber in Lee County. The ranch house property was a distinctive feature on the otherwise barren barren landscape. Huston had developed a
So basically,
Okay.
we learned right then
Just show it to the city attorney.
that there was $26,000 that was paid to all the families of the land they took. $8,500 of that was paid to the Huston family, but that's not until after the Hustons took them to court. They originally only paid the Huston's family $6,700, and then forced them to relocate their own buildings to 2 miles away, where they now have a racetrack casino. That's what's happening there.
We said that these records are not readily available.
They're not?
They're not. But we can get them for you.
Okay.
We do have up to 3 business days to provide that. So today's Friday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Certainly.
So,
I'll stay around that long. Your ordinance doesn't prevent it. So basically, so we're clear, the ordinances here allow for people who are traveling in RVs to stay for up to 2 weeks at your parks. You have ordinances requiring RVs to stay within an RV park. The 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution provides that no political subdivision can force me into servitude. So if I have to pay monetary money to stay places, then I'd have to work in the economy of that area, and there's a taxation, especially for a lodger's tax.
Let's take a second to talk about this. So people see the 13th Amendment as the amendment that ended slavery, and that is a beautiful thing about the 13th Amendment. That's the issue and the topic that brought it to the forefront of conversations at the time, ending obviously culminating to the Emancipation Proclamation and things like that. But 13th Amendment, the way it's written, is certainly not discriminating against white people or yellow people or brown people or any people. It's for the American people. And what it says is that no single republic within this union can stop you and tax you or prevent you from ingressing and egressing the state. And it's a freedom of movement is what it is. So you hear the word freedom of movement, freedom of travel, right to travel, a lot of these terms being used. But what we're really discussing when those terms are used is the 13th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
But no area of this country can force me into any taxation or in any servitude to pay that taxation. So I'm very specific on the constitutional ways that we do things. Political subdivisions.
What is your question? What's your concern?
Did the city of Hobbs use federal tax dollars to buy federal property, or did in this case
Is that one of the questions here?
Yeah, it is certainly. And also, the biggest question is when they did eminent domain to take the Huston's property, that there was a lease with the War Department. They took the land, and then what happened at the end of that lease? So the lease wouldn't be permanent. It was 25 years.
Correct. But until we provide these records, I could not answer any of these questions.
And you have nobody
See, and this is when they say, yes, can't tell you nothing.
in this entire place that knows that. There's just nobody. There's no city manager here.
Why don't I ask her a direct
And there's no city. And there's no city mayor.
And he's actually not in as well. And so you can be reached at 469-554-0970.
I can.
And
And you have the email.
and we have the email. And so we'll just provide these records when they're available, and we have up to 3 business days.
Since we're doing it all formally, I'm sure you understand that I have a bunch of other records that I have to go and review if I'm doing the research. So since we're doing that, I have to send you a few more requests. And I don't like to inundate, especially political subdivisions with open records requests. But the open records requests, if we're going to do this formally, and I can't just inspect records, then I'm going to be sending you a few more today.
And that's what we do.
I'm trying to explain to her.
And then tomorrow I'll be sending you a few more. And then when I get those back, I'll review this. I'll be giving you some more.
Do what you need to do, sir. That is the process.
And so are we clear what records he's asking for? Because these are, what I'm seeing here, these are just questions.
Because it says, if you read the opening line of that, I'll tell you why it's questions. I talked to Kristen about that.
So those are the questions that I was supposed to ask the mayor or.
Do you want to know the blatant question? Are y'all stealing money from the American people? Or stealing land from the American people? That's the question. If you want to hear it blatantly, are you stealing land from the American people?
There is the fire marshal.
There's a second one probably. There's an email you got there. It says that
agreement between the city and the Army Air Force. Okay.
Yeah, lease agreement. And then I think there's one in there by the state too. No, well, write that down then. Also, the one between the state from McAdams Park. I want the lease agreement from however the
lease agreement to understand the state property here. So, I want to go back here because now I'm filling this out. Watch this hostility right here. Why miss the good parts? After I think that I've been cordial with them the entire time. I mean, I'm getting a little frustrated on the incompetence of the staff and the lack of understanding on what public lands are. If it's even a lack of understanding, there are many times throughout this investigation that I have pondered that it is willful ignorance or willful malice. And that's
now all public meetings that were discussed when it comes to things like the 2-week time limitations at McAdams Park for RV dwellers. As a rule, I guess it was I'm pointing this from me because I don't want to point towards y'all. There was a rule, I guess, established within the park system that says the RV dwellers can stay for up to 2 weeks. All right, and so that rule itself, the public would have had input on that, not just the private business owners that run RV parks, though.
If it was an ordinance of the city, then yes, the public.
It doesn't look like there's an ordinance. Okay. The ordinance of the city that exists is 1844, I believe, and it requires the RVs be in an RV park. Okay, and then so what we're looking, I'll be honest with you, I'm not trying to be contemptuous, but the data I'm looking for could very much show misdeeds. Okay, so I'm being clear. It could show misconduct. It could show misdeeds. It could show nefarious actions. Okay, so I have my defenses up. The other people might have their defenses up. You know what I mean? So as I inquire into this inquiry, I'm already looking for people to try to shut me down.
And here comes somebody to do just that.
These documents that you've asked for.
There he is.
And
he's like, "Oh, did you call?"
You can submit those to us, or you can request additional records.
And there's nobody here in the city on Friday at noon, at like 11:45, almost noon.
No, sir.
Oh yeah.
There he is.
Not right now. There's
not right now. At noontime, we're all shutting down at
okay.
noon.
So, I'm sorry. Represent yourself, please.
My name is Sean Williams, Fire Marshal City Hall.
Fire Marshal City Hall.
So I work.
So you're a civilian?
No, I work for the government, but I'm.
But you're a civilian. Though. You're not law.
I'm telling you that the reason why nobody's here is because we're going in.
You haven't finished the qualified questions. You're just like cutting me off.
But I'm letting you know that we're closing at noon.
Okay.
So can you wrap it up so we all can go and have our rest of our Friday?
So are you a civilian or a law enforcement officer?
I'm not. I'm a civilian.
Okay, listen. That's all I wanted to know.
I understand that,
okay.
But I understand this stuff right here. Let's finish your business.
And you said you're the fire marshal.
Yes, sir.
Name was?
Sean Williams.
Sean Williams.
Yes, sir.
All right. I just want you to make sure you understand that your authority subsides within the fire marshal's area. You're a volunteer or maybe a salary paid city employee, but you have no law enforcement capabilities unless you did go through basic and you got certified through law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
But you didn't do that. So when you approach the civilians, when you approach the public with a means of authority, your authority doesn't exist.
Okay.
It's just two people talking.
Yes, sir.
So don't talk to me like my father, because you're not my father.
But let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
Let's back up a little bit.
But you're not my father. Okay, we'll back up. If you want to talk to me like a grown man,
let's back up.
And you're a grown man, we're the same age.
The reason why I come talk to you, because would you talk to your mother like you talking to these two young ladies?
If my mom was a city clerk, what do you mean?
No, the way you raised your voice to these young ladies.
I raised my voice.
Stand here. So
you mean I raised my voice? What do you mean by that?
Just letting you know.
I've never been hostile with anyone. And that's why the camera's for us, so that way I can prove that.
I agree.
No, I would never get hostile with anyone. Thank you, ma'am. I would never be hostile.
Right. though.
Never. Okay, so don't accuse me of hostility.
Not,
The
not
That would
even-
be
not
rude and
even-
inconsiderate.
Ministry.
No, that's literally what you just did.
Services and around a lot of people.
So, and then that's why law enforcement certifications are so
Oh, man, I'm
important.
so guilty of talking loud. But, I mean,
Assumed authority.
You believe me anyway.
Yet another example.
But
Now,
this
since we're in
doesn't
City
end
Hall and they're closing at noon, we're gonna go over here to Commissioner's area.
Duck over here quick.
As you can see, we're on to something here.
So this is
The
when we
City Hall
realized.
Annex also closing. There's a whole kit and caboodle. There's the Economic Development Corporation of Lee County and the City Hall Annex. Now, I don't know. Maybe the whole thing's closing at noon. I'm not really sure. But the hostility from that fire marshal was something other than kind. There's nothing on the first floor. Let's go up to the second floor.
Some of this I'm already narrating the video, so I'm just sitting here with
They
y'all.
might be all closing
I
at
have-
noon. I'm not sure. He didn't. That guy wasn't going to tell me. He was just mean. I don't see anyone here.
I'll say this.
So this is the
building
economic development. They would actually probably know more than anybody.
Some go in the buildings I see, and the inside.
Hello. Are y'all closing at noon as well? I just got a quick question. I hope it's quick, because the city couldn't answer it for me. And I won't point my camera at you. This is not an audit. I'm a data analyst. We're researching.
Let's stop right there because it is an audit. I have a hard time with the word audit. Being in the world of auditing, there are a lot of people who serve roles. There was years that I held a camera and had a body cam, and I was interacting with police officers, gathering quantitative data and qualitative data on the way police officers interact with the public, and I consider that to be auditing. And I think that's what the word has been reduced to, instead of understanding that there's data gathering and then there are back end things that we're doing too, such as checking case law, putting together amicus briefs for cases that are going on, seeing what cases they can be related to, gathering data on the areas of political subdivisions to find out if they're causing sicknesses and illnesses from their decision-making processes, such as having an Air Force Base in Hobbs. Did that cause people of Hobbs to get sick from long-term illnesses like the Camp Lejeune and the chromium in California? We have a lot of things that we're analyzing with the data, so it's not limited to any one thing. But here you go.
The phenomenon of American land getting converted into political subdivisions and then being restricted from American citizens. So the McAdams Park actually came up on the radar. The Army Air Force Base behind it that was acquired from the city by the city in '42 because of World War II. Are you familiar with the area? Because you're okay. So there was a lease that was drawn up for a 25-year lease. That was done by eminent domain. Was taken from the Huston family. A property they'd had since at least 1915, because there's some wood there from 1915. So they spent generations building up land. Then it was acquired by eminent domain for wartime, for Army Air Force training, and then it was decommissioned. And I guess the city had purchased the land, part of the war agreement during that with the Department of Defense or whatever. But that lease was 25 years. When the lease was up, and they were leasing it out for $1 a year to the Army Air Force, what was the subsequent? How did it?
This is all
cut off.
We're
And the
trying to
question
sell
was,
this at any moment in
How
time.
did why did
Really?
they get
This
rid of
is
us?
done. This is all going to end up being industrial.
Right, sure.
So yeah, we have.
But it's for sale because they're done with it now. They don't have any uses for it.
this is
but the-
industrial air base.
Yeah, I'm
that we
getting
have.
mixed messages because I got messages from.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's that.
that's what I wrote back in, and it was open, right? And then I talked to the trail supervisor. I don't want to keep you any longer than I have to. I'm gonna give you done in a
This is
second.
all for sale.
Right. So the trail supervisor, they have all kinds of like rules.
Hear what he's saying. No, this is all for sale. It's public land, all for sale. We're looking for investors. Listen to this conversation and see, because it's going to be very important moving forward in this investigation, this particular event.
Saying that there was no trespassing and it was.
Well, and there's
it was
not, because
private.
this is city owned property.
Right.
And the deal is that there's so the runway is still there.
So when she just said they're saying that there's no trespassing, he said and there's not because this is city-owned property. That made me wonder, well, I don't understand what you're saying. If there's no trespassing, that would be a private parcel or restricted because of safety areas or something like that. It would have some kind of marking saying it was restricted, but it did not.
There, and it is in rough condition. So people go out there and they do donuts and stuff like that. So it's fenced off for safety purposes.
Okay.
There's also a racetrack out there. Drag strip. Yeah, all that land's for sale.
And then now, I'm a venturer, man, so I like to know about America really well. And what I want to know is this stuff still out there that can be seen?
This land is leased every year for 30 days to the industrial to the Air Society, Soaring Society.
The Soaring Society.
So catch that, guys. First, he says it's public lands. It's for sale. It's the city of Hobbs. Then he says there is no trespassing. Is what he says. I mean, I think he answered Michelle's question with it. Well, there's not. And then he says, well, the Soaring Society leases it out. They're a private entity, and it goes downhill from there.
I saw a building like that right by there.
Yeah, that land's all.
And they're just flying planes. That's what they do.
They just use the runway. It gets that month. They clear all the weeds and everything out, and they take it out and you fly. You can rent this land if you wanted to for the day, have a party. They do concerts out there.
All right. So now we're saying he starts out with no trespassing. Within seconds is you can rent this land if you want to for parties. Like there's permitted use. Sure. Why not?
Oh, so if I just wrote out there to document what's out there, that's not what he meant by no trespassing.
Yeah, if you document it, they're not going to do anything. There's nothing there. It's just open.
It is okay.
Well, and then
because I saw the airstrip.
Way out here, there's
buildings were taken out.
Oh, okay. So the old Huston house was taken out.
Almost everything's gone.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there's pieces of it there, like it's been torn down.
Okay.
And there's graffiti all over. But out here, there's another reason is because there's a prison.
That's what that wasn't in the distance. Yeah. It's a prison. Okay, I told you it looked like a prison. I didn't know what exactly it was.
So that's a lot of the reason why things.
I want to get on this prison thing. We didn't go back by a prison, but just so everybody knows, prison is still state property. Unless you're like doing something nefarious by a prison, there's still no reason. This is still public grounds we're talking about.
Because of the prison.
In case of prison, that way
and
people
can. If the airplanes are there, you cannot get out there because that's a safety hazard. Mm-hmm. And if the
airplanes haven't been out there in years,
runway hadn't been maintained in a while, they would cut you off.
Gotcha.
Especially if they're
there was no trespassing signs at that one little area. The gates open to where you can actually. That's why I was able.
Go out there. So what they do is that they'll.
Okay,
so there's two runways.
Yeah.
One of them is.
He says, "Yeah, you can go out there." I mean, just not even a minute back in the conversation, he was saying there's no trespassing.
This big.
Right.
The other one is this big.
Okay, I saw this one. I think the big, huge.
So the other one, this is old. This is really, really old. This is what.
Which way? Where's McAdams Park? Right here.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. This is all I saw. There's a gate right here that goes in.
Yeah. So this is the runway. This again, all of this is no longer in existence as far as this. But
okay, so this was the paved area I saw.
Yeah,
got it.
This here, they use it for CDL training for trucks.
It went from no trespassing.
Okay. So that's a lot. You know how government is, man. Yeah. Nobody knows everything.
Well, they don't know it because they don't deal with it. We deal with this every day.
I saw economic development, but I bet they know exactly what's going on here.
So the city.
Do they have a number on what they want to sell it for?
Oh man, it's like
they want a lot for it.
It's like $1 billion. Like it's over.
But they acquired it for $26,000.
I mean, inflation, bro.
Well, it's government. Usually that's what they hear on private sales.
But that's why it's sanctioned for industrial because if we get a right tenant in, we'll sell it to them for $1 because they're going to bring in 500 jobs and.
Okay, so it all depends on how the development can work.
But if you were to try to buy it as a personal developer, they would charge you billions of dollars.
Right. It's because of the amount of land it is.
They got it for $26,000.
Yeah, $26,000. Yeah. Well, they got no.
There's multiple families.
They got a bond issue for $26,000. They did disposition.
67 to the Huston family.
Yeah, they only get $6,700 to the Huston family, which is this. So
they ended up getting
$8,500. But they said it happened in district court. We can't find any court records on
this. A lot of the deal was that a lot of these families to this day they said, "Oh, we got this land," but then so the city got this land,
but I have not gotten court records back.
Oh, they're just.
It mentions that they moved
the deal about this was years and years and years ago in
Right.
small oil.
Years
Well, it's still,
and
there's people
years
still alive
and
today.
years
They're
ago.
there, you know what I mean? It's not.
Oh, I mean, there's people that still.
It's not 2 generations ago. It's 1 generation ago.
I mean,
And,
but you're talking about people that have lived in this area their entire lives, and so.
And I don't
Right.
know what
I
that
mean,
means. Surely they lived in the area
land
entire
up
life.
for-
Were they
for
happy with
whatever.
it?
certainly, but it did sound like the Hustons weren't really okay with it. Like they were a little pissed off about it.
I don't know.
Because they would been acquired, they would been on the land for 40 years or more or something like that, and they'd been building land, and they had, so it sounded like from the sounds of the old history that they were kind of pissed.
I mean, I
would
understand,
be too, yeah, sure.
But you know, that's
But yeah, but
and you know, that's everybody, and so
yeah,
you know,
there's not a lot of
Everybody.
times that cities
everybody.
have been able to acquire federal lands to expand their city,
They
and
didn't
then
acquire-
restrict it from what used to be an RV park.
They did not acquire federal lands. They signed a contract with the federal government prior to taking the lands from the Hustons. So they already had a $1 a year contract signed, but then they had the promise that the risk was gone. They knew they moved the Air Force Base in, it would grow in taxes and area in population in the city. So the risk was all gone by the time they even took the land. They didn't have the land when they signed the contract. They took it from the Hustons afterwards under threat of condemnation.
There, and there's not a lot of
the RV
times.
park is still there. All of the hookups are still there. You just can't. I mean, there's more electricity.
Can't use them.
There's
Yeah.
more electricity in that area, so you can use them as long as there's something going on.
Oh.
The RV park
For the
is
events.
still.
You hear that? So he's saying that you can use the RV hookups as long as there's something going on. This is very confusing to me because typically with political subdivisions on public property, they will provide permits for events, or if there's like a movie shoot or something like that, there'd be a permit to block off for the access of public land from the residents of that area or other civilians that are not part of that event planning coordination. The idea that you can use these RV park spots when there's an event going on, when it's being rented out by or they're saying the word rented out a bunch of times, but I'm sure they're talking about permits. I don't see how rented is quite the right word for it, but it's the same effect. But every time it's rented out for an event, you can use these RV spots, but you can't use them. You can't use them when there's not an event. That kind of confused me.
Okay,
There's
so if you
still
were
an
to
RV
rent the
park.
whole thing,
There's still an RV park that's just south that's absolutely better.
oh, it is better. The issue is that they put regulations in there. So I work with homeless advocates. I mean, I was a DoD analyst for a while, and then I would work with homeless advocates and poor people advocates. RV dwellers are often lump summed into homeless people, especially no matter how many properties they own. If they're not at the property, they're all of a sudden they're homeless. So we have to deal with the same type of bigotries and biases through usually political subdivisions.
And unfortunately, in Lee County, if you're in an RV, you probably make more money than most people that live in houses because you work in oil.
Oh yeah,
No,
but I
I
don't
don't
work in oil.
No.
I'm a data analyst, but and I did make good money when I was working for the DoD, but the private sector doesn't pay. It's volunteer, most of it.
Yeah,
yes,
So
I'd rather
well, it did
diesel.
pay.
I'd
Private
rather
sector pays really well when I'm doing something other than what I'm doing now. But when you're advocating for poor people,
No, I get
you don't
it.
get a lot of
I
money
worked
out of it.
I worked in the United Way.
Yeah, so you know exactly what I mean. They bring in a lot of money, you just don't see a lot of it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
but-
all that land it's for sale.
All right.
I
Land
mean,
is for sale,
like,
yep.
like I said, we work.
It's for sale at city land, and as long as there's not no trespassing signs posted, you can explore.
Oh yeah, go out there, have fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And what was your name again?
My name is
AJ.
AJ.
AJ. Thank you so much. You got a card, AJ? Let me grab a card from you. You don't.
Yeah.
They didn't make you that cool?
Because those truck drivers,
I haven't explored those areas.
they're driving fast.
Oh, so they do drive out there.
Oh, yeah.
It's used. Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right. So that's interesting. That's a very much of an
But
update
you
from what we
heard
already
him
knew.
say
Do you have?
it's used. The CDL, they have a truck driving, they drive fast out there. He warned me about it. Let's move forward a little bit because then
So you being an engineering department,
Kevin
probably
as
know
the
all the
engineer.
different
he concurred.
housing and proper sources. I'm not saying
He concurred
you see
with,
systematic research in a building that was apparently
yeah, let's do a little bit more research.
how that happened, and I hope this rabbit hole doesn't get me hemmed up. They all
Right.
seem
This one time I'm
they
starting
all
to get a little
seem jump into a big pool, a
about what's
cesspool of
going on.
corruption on down the road somewhere. Maybe I can get the data we need without finding the corruption, but it definitely looks dirty. So we'll talk to you more about this one. Assumed Authority Project, auditarchives.com. I love you all. Have a grateful day.
All right, so now we're going to go into a little more qualitative data.
Okay.
I'm just showing you a recap of this part where I said, this is where that piece went. Oh, not that good at editing yet. This is where that
So
piece
this right here was,
This is all of that land in Hobbs Industrial Air Park subdivision phase 1.
and there's nothing that is restricted from the public.
No, all of this is
All right, y'all. So let's go explore this area that I've been talking about.
Look at the area.
It's federal property
After I figured
acquired
out
by the Hobbs, New Mexico political subdivision government.
I decided to go explore it.
So you can kind of see what I'm getting at. Here's the RV park now. It's pretty nice. $18 a night. You can stay for up to 2 weeks. You know, that is nice for a person like me who's traveling through an area or tourism and bringing lodging money to a city. But what about the low-income people who are staying in the area trying to settle, or they bring their carriages and wagons, RVs, what they would be today, but the same thing as a wagon back in the 1800s, to Hobbs, New Mexico, and then they want to get a job and make it in town. So here you'll see site of Hobbs Air Force Base B-17 training. Obviously B-17s are quite large, and this is World War II, so they were working on training for nuclear bombs. Right here you'll see where it says campers must register and pay at McAdams Park station, self-pay station. All right, and there's this area right there. And look, hold on, let's take you back here and show you this, because this was the old RV park. The RV lot there, right? Yeah, structure right there. Alright. And then you can come back on both sides. And there are still hookups on each one of these sites. There are still dump stations at every site here. There's still electric running from the pole. As we heard from the economic planning, the electric over there at the pole. Alright. And apparently there's still electricity that runs back here. But the trail supervisor says that you're not allowed to use this area. And then the economic planning supervisor says, sure, it's open to everybody. So two very different replies concerning this area that was once, again, federal land acquired possibly without any economic value by the city of Hobbs during World War II, $26,000 when they took it from the Huston family. And then when I asked about, it says for sale. The city's selling it now because they're done with it. And
let's be clear, that $26,000 was to all 5 families in the area. The Hustons had the vast majority of the land and grazing rights. They had a small amount of land where their house was on, usually where the water is at. I think that's where they had there. And they had the grazing rights. They're paying for leases through the state for the rest of them, for the rest of the acreage there. But most of it was the Hustons. I just want to be clear on that. So they didn't see $26,000. They saw to $6,700 offered, and then $8,500 after district court.
What the price tag on it is, and they're saying, oh man, for a private sale, it'd be like $9 billion. So to $26,000 in land, and they actually, way more than $26,000 then. But again, this is eminent domain. Eminent domain allows the government to take things when it's not theirs, and that's what they did here. And then after they did that, they then they used the Air Force Base. But then here, so you see those camping areas there, and then there's propane. There's a propane line, so that's propane line there, and then back here This is the runway airstrip. You see this truck right there.
Massive. Let me just
This is the
look.
airstrip called Porta Potty.
Look how massive this airstrip here is. I'm gonna go back here. I want to talk to y'all for a second. This airstrip was one of the largest airstrips I've ever seen that hasn't been used. It was something that I was interested in as a traveler. I was interested in as a data analyst. I was interested in the history of it. I was interested in everything to do with this airstrip was interesting to the American public. And I just want to get that out there while I move forward in this video.
Bodies. And apparently this whole area is rented sometimes by the Soaring Society. And people sometimes go do donuts back here.
It is
things like that.
As I'm riding the scooter down the airstrip, regarding the windiness, I can turn the volume down.
And trucks, as you see, it is accessible. Like that truck just drove by. It is land.
Important piece of data. That was a civilian truck that just drove by, and I waved to. And that kind of activity was quite normal and usual here. There was nothing that suggested that this was an off-limits area to anyone.
That can be used by the public, except for the issue with RVs. So RV. Now to add to that, what they added is an ordinance within the city muni code that I'm going to show you more of this area here. How nice it is for RVs. It's the muni code that says RVs must be in a mobile home or a recreational vehicle park. And this technically is that because it was made as an RV park and maintained until just about 10 years ago when private investors in the city invested in RV parks.
The 1804 ordinance 1804.
A city-ran RV park on grounds that the city has no interest in, so it was really cheap to stay here. And the city decided that it didn't want to incentivize RV living, so they then restricted RV. But ultimately, you see,
you're not gonna be able to hear much of what I say here, but I'm talking about.
and this goes on for a grid.
Let me explain a little bit of something we found out since this report was made, that the commissioner for this area, the city commissioner, not county, or maybe it's county, yeah, Lee County Commissioner, I believe is. I have to double check. District 5 Commissioner Roy Dwayne Penick, P-N-I-C-K. In the 90s, he owned a construction company, so he was building houses. But over time, he developed in his life, and he stayed in the real estate industry. And he owns a LLC called Penick Properties LLC. And let's pull that up. Since I'm sharing my screen. No, I'm sharing a video right now, not my screen. Let me see if I can go right and share my screen and go right back to it. That might be something I can do. Screen share. And it says as easy as 2 monitors, but I don't have 2 monitors right now because of desktop. So here's my desktop. These are my files. I'm going to go over here to the desktop, and I'm going to pull up a quick snippet from the Hobbs, New Mexico Army base. One thing I found very interesting about Mr. Penick was here you'll see, pull that on up. This is his construction company, A Custom Construction and Roofing LLC, which is interesting because A Ranch was the name of the Huston family ranch. And it's called A Custom Construction, or maybe it's A Custom Construction. I have no idea. It's a family-owned business since 1996. Owner's Dwayne. Now, Dwayne, that name Dwayne is referring to Roy Dwayne Penick. He goes by his middle name. He answered the phone as Dwayne as well. And Joanne Penick, which is his wife, who is also an organizer on the new company of Penick Properties LLC. Let's look at that real quick. Penick Properties. Here is. Here we've got the corporations and business of Penick Properties LLC. business ID 5386411. And it's in good standing. And this is a properties company. And the reason I bring that up is because when we talk about lobbyism, go back over here to StreamYard. And I'm going to stop. Okay. Oh, man. Did it work? I'm not sure it worked. Select Windows screen, and what do I have to do here? See, I am so new to this stuff. I hit desktop, and I hit allow, and then, okay, so then I have to add it maybe? Let's see if I can add it here. Oh, I'm on my desk. There we go. So yeah, you see it. This is a lot easier. All right, so here is the picture of Patrick Pinnock's old construction company from the 90s. Let's see if I can bring it up. Does it show that? I'm not really sure if it shows this, but 1996, he had a custom construction roofing LLC. Not really sure if it's showing that or not. And then right here, he has, because I'm opening up to my entire screen, and I don't have two screens with me right here. This is Patrick Pinnock Properties LLC that is opening. So that is the commissioner for the area. So let me put this back into perspective here. Back to stream.
And yeah, it's a huge
lobbyism from private investors into the decision-making process, divest funding from increasing from that area, from the RV park that was already there, and then dumping it into the McAdams RV Park, which was a state park. And that's interesting because you can't camp on state land in New Mexico. They have laws against recreational camping on the state land. So it had to be city ran to even have an RV park there. There's a lot going on here that's not being told.
Huge swath of land. It goes all the way back to that prison way back there. There's a prison there. So, what the prison, it's a state prison. They were leasing from Hobbs, or that's the end of the property line. But 2,468 acres is this land here. It goes way back there. I mean, it's a tremendous sized parcel that could be available for people who have RVs, could dry camp back here. There's again electric and full hookups up front. People who live in cars, those people could be back here, but not because of city ordinances on what was federal grounds. And that's the area of things I'm studying about Hobbs right now, is how
let me be clear. When I say it was federal grounds, there was a 25-year lease. It was always the city of Hobbs property. 25-year lease that was already signed before they acquired it with the federal government.
American citizens are disparaged by that. They take the land from the Huston family, give them pennies on the dollar for the land, and now they have it marked up for sale with inflation rates for an extremely high amount. And the Hustons will not benefit from that sale in any way, shape, or form. And matter of fact, the American people are being deprived of the area now in this day and age. So, but now when I talk to economic development, they said, "Oh yeah, you can stay back there, no problem. But why wouldn't you want to stay in the RV park? It's much nicer." And they're right. It is much nicer, but back here is free. Or maybe it's not, because campers must register and pay at a McAdams Park station. So maybe you could stay back here. They said they rented out to the Soaring Society, which is right here. So let me find out what exactly is going on with that, because that might lead into some interesting data in itself.
And I'm gonna go past this.
AJ,
Economic Development Department.
This is where the conflict.
when you take away that.
So we're going to go right into where the conflict begins. Up until this point in time, it's been only research trying to find out what's going on with the property, where the legislation comes in, why it's being restricted from the American people, various questions that come to mind with the Assumed Authority Project and Homeless Access Project. Then Along comes Marcus Juarez, the trail supervisor, on Monday morning after the weekend was over, and he just couldn't help himself.
Land from the usage of people who are coming through in their RVs.
Apparently, so
I'm sure it's the same thing. People on Oregon Trail and things like that. Areas where just like, get out, just keep going. We don't want you here. Take your covered wagon and head on out. And I'm sure that they had the same kind of bigotries going on then. That this is the modern version of that, and it's very important for us to recognize what's going on and try to eliminate any bigotries and biases there. All right, y'all. Said that,
Her name, though.
and I have that on video too.
Here is where the conflict begins.
All that's city property.
Yeah, we've actually talked to the economic development, who's the ones in charge of that property. They're selling it right now, and AJ over there says just fine. People use it all the time. He looked at it. I wasn't making it. Now, you're I guess you're shaking your head. I get it.
PD's already been out. They've already ran the tags, ran
sure.
everything on it.
Sure,
And
makes sense.
They're about to send a tow truck out here to tow it off.
To tow it off, and on whose authority?
It belongs to the city of Hobbs.
But please mind you that so far I just went out there and explained to him what we had learned over the weekend and on Friday after when we went to the EDC, but we didn't want to present any information that was false or incorrect to this guy. In the moment I presented something he didn't want to hear. Look at his body language. Now I studied body language for many years. And this guy's got his arms folded, right? And he's standing like up, leaning against the truck, and it's a very dismissive demeanor. And standoffish. When someone folds their arms like that, they're not really willing to hear anything. They're closing themselves off and leaning against the truck while you're discussing something like this shows a level of contempt for the person speaking to you. And you'll see that demeanor increase as this goes along very fast.
City of Hobbs property.
Right.
There's signs right there that say no trespassing, so you cannot.
Can you show me the signs? Because there's no trespassing signs where I went in.
Okay, that gate that you went in is locked.
No, it wasn't locked.
Well, it's supposed to be.
Oh, okay, but it wasn't though.
The other entrance is right here.
And people have been using this like constantly.
Yeah.
So
that's why we're trying to stop.
and the guy, the economic. So listen. I work on facts.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm not. And so what I don't do is maybe it's you, maybe it's just you, okay, but the attitude that you've delivered from the day one that I met you has seeming like you have a problem, and that's not okay.
Attitude.
So yeah, like you're like
the same one that I was out here trying to talk with y'all.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah, you just seem like you had an attitude. So if the economic,
the moment I said he had an attitude. Moment I said that he had an attitude, and he had. The first time I didn't have a camera on him. I don't really put everybody on camera unless I feel like there's a need for it. And he had a huge attitude that showed a biases toward us for an unknown reason. We had no idea what it was over. And it was the day we moved in here. Later on in this video, you'll start to hear what it was over. But right now, he's just acting like an immature bully out of nowhere for no reason, and he immediately pulls his phone out. Now watch what happens here.
Development department says that that's open to the public, and you're saying it's not. Who's correct?
Sitting here busy with the guy number 10. He says I got a pretty bad attitude.
Spoiler alert. On the phone is Matt Hughes, the president of Parks and Open Spaces.
A little bit.
I have since he got here, but he was informing me that they talked to the
AJ
economic development department.
Yeah, I got it on video. Got it on video too.
And they told him that it was perfectly fine to park out.
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
And who was it they talked to there?
Mind you, I did not say it was perfectly all right to park out there. Let me keep going with this.
Oh, it was AJ, and there was a lady there too. But
I said I qualified it as an open public space. And let me go to show my face while I'm talking. I qualified as an open public space for public use that is undesignated other than the Soaring Society's contract or lease at the EDC. So this guy moves into a story that when you see liars, they usually lie from the very beginning. And that's why it's very important to collect the data as thoroughly as possible, is because this guy is going to lie from here on out.
AJ is the one that said that.
Her name, though.
And I have that on video too.
AJ with the EDC.
With the in the Lee County Economic Development Planning, Economic Development and Planning is what it is. Yeah. He said they're in charge of it too. So AJ's words were that that's their thing, that they deal with it every day, and that not he wasn't being rude, but he said that I'm speaking specifically of you, Mr. You're the trail supervisor, right? Yes. So I said I talked to the trail supervisor. I let him know what's going on. I said, he said it was private property, there was no trespassing, but I didn't see no trespassing signs, and the gate was wide open and people were using it.
I was so walking on eggshells with this guy. I was so trying to keep him from escalating a situation that really didn't exist, but he was hell-bent on escalating it. Watch.
And he said, well, yeah, it's open to the public. And then I said, well, and he said, people go out there. He said,
he's not going to stop talking, Matt.
Oh, I was letting you know what he said. I mean, I'm wanting you to catch up to what he said, because he's, I'm relaying information from AJ.
I really don't care what AJ said. My deal is,
okay,
I'll make the phone calls.
Let's be clear what he just said. So AJ, let me go over here to me. AJ works out of the Lee County Economic Development Commission. The EDC is a county commission that incorporates the land and deals with the land here of Hobbs, in the city of Hobbs, including the land we're talking about. When I walked in his office, the land they were discussing was plastered on their wall. It was the biggest poster in the entire office. The map took up the entire wall right there in the hallway. He knew exactly what we were talking about. He described it with such elegance and knowledge that I had not heard yet, especially from this guy, that I really did trust AJ's judgment far better than Marcus Juarez.
I need to make.
Well, so if you're saying that AJ doesn't have any authority over that area, then.
Just a minute, I'm talking right now.
Oh, yes, sir.
Number one, that is an active.
Okay, that will be the first time that he shuts me up, but it won't be the last. I'm talking right now. I don't know who this guy is, but he talks like he's law enforcement, and he's not. He's just a Parks and Open Spaces president, and there's no one here violating any rules of a park, much less a law.
Runway.
And
that is the first thing. And there are signs up there that say it is an active runway, no vehicles.
I didn't see a sign that said that anywhere. I don't know. Well, no, we didn't go in there.
So they went in the main gate, Matt, and somebody unlocked the main gate, the one that didn't have any of the signs, but all the other signs,
yeah, this gate was the only gate I've seen so far.
It says no trespassing. Of course, they didn't see any of those.
No, I saw a state of New Mexico pole.
All right.
Yeah. And
of course, they didn't see any of those. Now, he already knows which gate I went into because he's referenced that to Matt Hughes. You saw it on a scooter cam when we rode in there on a scooter. There are no signs that say no trespassing. There are many inviting things that look like it was an old RV park ran by the state. It was public grounds. There was nothing to suggest that there was no trespassing signs. And this guy is condescending in the way he uses words. Of course, they didn't see any of them. Yes, he won't stop talking. Of course, they didn't see any of them. Just a pleasant fellow, let me tell you.
It's supposed to be locked.
But it's not locked. I mean, so who has authority to unlock it?
There's a chain and lock on it.
Well, I didn't see. It wasn't locked. I mean, it was wide open. So I mean, it's nobody was trying to be nefarious or anything like that. We went through the proper channels. Matt Hughes.
I really appreciate you moving.
Okay.
Because it is an active runway.
Okay. So Matt Hughes, can I ask you to identify your position with the city?
I am the superintendent of the Parks and Open Spaces.
Superintendent Parks and Open Spaces.
Correct.
Okay,
I will call Jennifer Grasham at the EDC and find out who this AJ is.
Well,
I'm gonna call Jennifer Grasham. This is just this is the level of arrogance we're dealing with. This is the amount of lack of moral judgment, character itself, integrity, the arrogance that this guy exhibits is on like an astronomical level. I'm gonna call the president of the EDC and find out who this AJ is. I swear, it's almost mind-boggling how stupid this guy is.
It's on a video channel on Audit Archives, so you can go on YouTube and see the video. That now that there has been a conflict of government management, I'm a data analyst, so I audit municipalities as we.
Awesome.
So yeah.
I know who the president of the EDC is.
Yeah, and if there's a problem, because what it looks like federal land, what was leased to federal land was taken from the Huston family back in 1942. And then that's what I believe. It was a Huston family.
God forbid you educate these ignorant sons of guns any more than they already have. They got their GED. They're done with that education.
And they were like compensated a very low amount of money, and it was for a government contract for World War II. That's if I'm not
right now what we're dealing with is
right. It is a city. I know we're dealing. Well, I mean, I'm not being rude to you.
Apparently, I have a pretty bad attitude.
Yeah, I'm not being rude to you at all in any way, shape, or form.
He's got his little GoPro on. But he didn't have his GoPro on earlier when the other day when he was asking me.
I didn't want you to be confrontational at all.
Call the police and I'll be right out.
Call the police, okay.
Just my opinion.
Okay.
I'm just one person.
That's weird. So they're gonna call the police. We're just being extremely. I mean, I think we're being super kind.
Oh yeah, it's about over now.
I don't know.
Calling the police.
I don't think we could be even any more kind. But they're gonna call the police. So we'll let the police come, and then we'll go from there.
Go from there. What more can I do?
All right. So it is now 8:55 a.m. on October 10th, and we're documenting an event in Hobbs, New Mexico, where we were researching the history of the old Air Force Base.
I called him back,
and
okay, so I'm gonna tell you one fast forwarding. I called EDC back and tried to talk to AJ, since that's the only person I really interacted with on Friday. And the girl who was there on Friday, but not the one I interacted with, was the one who answered the phone. And AJ was not available and had to call me back, but he did quite quickly. So let me show you getting a little bit further along on this video.
Somewhere until this cop gets here.
I am.
You're getting super desperate, and the cops are on their way.
So here, the reason I left this on the video is because now that they ran Michelle off this public space, she gets caught up in a small little parking lot at a storing society, which is that private entity that apparently is leasing a building on public space and has a 30-day lease. That's I don't know, confusing lease. Apparently, city attorneys as confused as I am. You'll see that in a little bit. But they get her caught up, and I had to guide her because she's like in this tight little squeeze, and she damages the trailer. And you'll see that in a second as she's trying to comply with these directives.
Okay, so help me turn it around.
I can't.
You get a desperation, so help me turn it around.
Now they're on the way.
Okay, well, direct me.
I'm trying to deal with these cops that are on the way.
If you cut, let's see. You done messed your trailer up. Damn, that's what I'm saying. It's super desperate.
So that's all I'm gonna catch on that. Is there was damages on the trailer. It's a custom trailer. It's not an inexpensive trailer, and there were damages on the trailer, and there might be a later time that might be important. But let's go forward a little bit because it's not important right now. So we get done with this, and I'm going to go back here.
So I didn't really go above his head. I got a second opinion on the matter.
Let's discuss the matter, me and Michelle.
Second opinion could have come from the clerk's office. It could have come from the economic development office. It happened to come from economic development. But I wasn't trying to go above his head. I got a second opinion. I mean, right here, I don't know. This is right of way. That's right of way.
What Michelle is now concerned about is the fears that I'm talking about. So she's worried that because I went to the EDC office to find out about this land and do the research, it pissed off Marcus Juarez. And we got to worry about him having nepotism and some ability to cause actual world problems for someone who is literally just being inquisitive into the area that they're in.
I parked it right there, and there's enough space.
And then we'll talk to them when they get here.
Yeah, right. This side didn't have enough space for the van.
Right.
So she explains why she didn't park on this area.
I mean, there's obvious in his body language that he thinks less of us. Now, I'm not really sure why, but you can tell by the way his demeanor is that he has a bias against us in some, whether it be our fashion or our trailer or the way our truck looks, or, you know what I mean? It's something that is creating a bias in him that I can't put my finger on. I'm not sure how he was raised, but the fact that Mark Hughes said, well, call the police. Matt Hughes? Might have been Matt Hughes. I videotaped the name on the phone because I want to make sure I documented it correctly. I mean, it just seemed like all I was doing was documenting Hobbs. I still don't think anybody has been aggressive in nature in any way. I even like.
Fast forward a little bit more because this is when everything.
On Friday, you know, that's what I was there for.
And then right here is the police interaction.
I don't think so.
Here. So here is the police interaction. Let me go over to where you can see me too. Here's the police interaction, okay? And I at this point in time I have no idea why I'm dealing with the police, but I'm a little frustrated that I'm having to. And watch how I'm just gonna say ignorant. How ignorant this willful ignorance. He neglects his duties. He doesn't do any investigation. He just acts as a barking or an order barker for Marcus Juarez.
Oh, that's my wife.
But so I'm getting from Matt Hughes that you're telling Matt and police that I told you could.
Well, I haven't talked to the police yet, so the police are here now. But I'm walking out there.
I'm currently on the phone with the AJ from EDC when he called me back.
What I have to say is, like, you can, I mean, that land is open.
Yeah.
Look at it, but it's not just for public use.
Well,
you can just go and sit up out there.
So it's not easement?
From the city.
It's not easement, or I'm confused because I understand what public land and designated public land is. I understand all those concepts, and I understand the history of this land. So now I guess I'm trying to understand how the history of this land is. Well, I guess the sheriff or maybe a police, he's coming over now. So,
are you trying to understand, or are you just trying to take advantage of it?
Well, without a doubt, I'm not trying to take advantage of it. I mean, we're pastors through, and I'm trying to take advantage of any system here. But I am trying to.
That land is just like anybody else's land. Like, if somebody doesn't want you on their land, then you can't be there.
Right. If somebody, right? Yeah, I understood, AJ.
This is your land, and you didn't want someone
there. Yeah, but it's not my land. It's not private land. It looks like it's easement. And the way you described it to me at the Economic Development Commission when I talked to you on Friday, this is AJ with EDC, was that it was easement, and you still kind of describe it. You're still definitely describing it as easement, but you're saying that now you didn't tell me I could park there, and I agree with that. I don't think we asked specifically about parking.
At this one time, I've got AJ on the phone who very clearly said it was public land when we were in there on Friday, as you saw in the video. Now he's saying he's gotten a phone call from Matt Hughes, and I don't know how intimidating Matt Hughes is to his coworkers, his colleagues. But AJ seems quite intimidated. And he's like, don't tell him I said you could park there. You said I could do a lot of things there. I don't know. I don't remember the word parking. I think that he said people use it and like he said a lot of various things. I don't know the specific word park. I assume I can park a van and collect data in our data collection van on any open grounds that are not designated for a different purpose or leased out or restricted by sign and posting. But now you watch, the demeanor completely changes.
But I asked a lot of questions to qualify the area as whether it was designated easement, designated for a specific purpose, whether it was private property.
Your assumptions can't be my issue.
Well, that's why I came into your office to find clarity, sir.
I'm not understanding you. Really
I came in the office to gain clarity, so that way there wouldn't be any issue. I want to make sure this is documented. Everything's documented. That's hard. That's harder to request.
here's the move where the cop pulls my wife over to the side to try to stop the documentation. And mind you, he's going to feed her a load of malarkey here in a second.
You want to hold this camera? It's hard to request. It is. I do that for a living. It's very difficult.
On what I meant by it's very difficult. All right, so here I'm going to go over this records request from New Mexico that still hasn't been fulfilled. This is the reason we're still here. This is a records request made on 9/8. It's now 10/10. It's 9/8. And it was sent to the New Mexico Department. Now, from there, we have, let's look at the New Mexico. I searched New Mexico, show you. This I don't know why there's Janet J. Morano. She just pops up all of them. Here's one. So this one, 9/21, they sent me to the government QA portal, and there's a fatal glitch in the portal, and you can't log in with your password. So it's not. I have no access to the records. I'm just asking to send me the records that are requested, because there's something wrong with their government QA portal. And bottom line is, I still have no records. And so if you look at the auditarchives.com website, under the certified law enforcement officers, you will see that New Mexico does not have the list of their roster because they have yet to produce that. New Mexico Department of Public Safety. Apparently they're not post yet. Here 9/23, I'm asking for a list of the current certified officers in the state. And now to show you that this has been going on, we've been in this state for over a month trying to get these records so we can move on to Texas and do the same thing. But we can't get out of New Mexico until we fill the records in Santa Fe. That list of officers on the Audit Archives website because they keep filing extensions and they haven't produced them. So that's what I meant by that.
All right.
I'll talk to you.
So, yeah, I just don't know.
So you guys are the owner of the vehicle?
If there is a miscommunication,
I'm Officer Vargas with the Hobbs Air Force Base, okay? Alright, I got called out here earlier because the vehicle is abandoned and parked on the airstrip.
That's what he came and told me.
Okay.
And that's why he told me I had to move it off of there, and then I asked him.
Stop here. So the call they got was for an abandoned vehicle. That is an abuse of 911 services or abuse of public services. Marcus Juarez knew the van was ours. He stopped by the RV, the command center at 8:44 in the morning to tell us how it was being towed, and real arrogantly, like you just saw. He purposefully lied to the police department, which is a crime, and began this deprivation of rights that you're about to witness.
Because I was still in my pajamas. I was like, can I just park it over here until I go to town? And he said, yeah, that's fine as long as it's on right away. So that's why I parked it there.
Okay. So do you understand why it should not be parked on the airstrip, correct?
So, because that's your job.
Now, at the time that we parked it there, it may have been a wrong assumption.
And he's lying.
The assumption that it was
not
okay to park there.
Are you guys from New Mexico or from Hobbs?
No.
Where are you guys from?
You
Arizona.
told me it was up for sale by the city. You told me a lot.
Okay, I'm going to explain to you right now, okay? I understand he's talking on the phone to whoever he's talking to right now, okay? I'm going to explain to you guys what's going on here, okay? This whole property on that side of the street is all an active airstrip.
Okay.
It is not.
Yeah.
So no matter what, no one cannot be on that airstrip at any point in time.
Certainly. If it does belong to Parks and Recreation,
because it is an active airstrip.
Okay.
Okay.
We were told slightly different.
And not only that, there's
told
signs
very
posted on every entrance of this airstrip except for this one.
Except for this one, yeah.
City workers told me that it wasn't this one because this one was padlocked shut.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But then they told me too that the lock was cut a few months ago, but they never replaced it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
even when I
up
come
there,
out here,
he just said the lock was cut a few months ago. It said the lock was cut a few months ago, but they never replaced it. And I want to be clear about this. That if there was due diligence at all, how would he know the lock was cut a few months ago? Obviously, someone's told him that, and they knew that. And why would they not have replaced it within months? Well, one simple answer to that question is because they didn't have a right to. And that's probably why people keep cutting their locks, because they don't have a right to put it on there. Back to the video.
during the day it's always shut. Even though it's not, I guess it's not locked, but it's always shut.
Oh yeah, it's been open all weekend.
So with that being said, there's a private property, no parking, no trespassing signs up and down this airstrip right here on that side of the street.
Okay.
Okay, from the top up there, from Shotgun Shooters Club up there.
Okay.
And the area club up there, and all the way down.
I don't know.
So
we have yet to
I didn't
see
tow the
any
vehicle
of
because
these.
it's a private property.
We have yet to see any of these.
I can't tow it because it's not even.
Michelle, actually, I'm sorry.
Right.
Michelle did see one. It doesn't say private property on the sign. It does say no trespassing in the areas where the hangars are, and there's like construction equipment, things like that, and all those things. They're fenced off too, and they have a separate entrance. But they do say no trespassing in those areas.
Yeah, that's he came over and told me, he's like, cops are gonna come tow it. I'm like, okay, I mean, I'll move it.
I was gonna tow it, but it's on private.
He said, I was gonna tow it. Here's words. I was gonna tow it, but it's on private property.
I had to make a couple phone calls to see if it was a city property or not, but they said it was private property owned by somebody else.
Okay.
But the city,
so what he's saying here is I had to make a couple phone calls to find out if it was city property, but they, not identifying who they are, said that it was private property. And why he's doing that is to maintain qualified immunity. So we're all clear. As long as he can prove that he's ignorant or he's told by someone. Now, who they are may never come out, right? Because I don't think there is a they. That's another thing. Officers are allowed to lie to you. They don't have to tell you the truth during these stops, whether they be detentions or cordial conversations. They don't have to tell you the truth. And in this case, he's saying they said it's private property. We know it's not private property. But who's they? He can't get in trouble for saying that because they told him that.
The city has a authority to actually code it.
Okay. Is there any way we could maybe turn? Okay, sorry, I had the sun right in my eyes.
No, that's fine. So
the city can see and
the
say
city
why
can tow the vehicle if it's on there. Any vehicle that's on there, they can tow it.
We'll tell them that,
Okay.
AJ.
So not only that, right now.
All right, now he says something very different. He says the city can tow any vehicles on there. Any vehicle, they can tow it. If it were private property, that would not be true. There is no zoning department, by the way, in the city of Hobbs. They have a code enforcement, but they have no zoning because it got voted out. So they got voted to defund the zoning department. So there is no zoning. So what he's saying is, it's factually, he's just lie after lie. Whether it's incompetence, ignorance, or just willful, malicious lies, we don't know because you can't prove intent.
Things out. Okay.
You're not able to park on that curb right on that side of the road right there.
Oh,
Now he moves into where you're parked. You're not parked there either.
On the other side or on this side?
Right here.
Oh, where I am parked.
That's not a parking area.
Before,
Sir, can you stand over there so I can talk to you?
I can.
Yeah.
I mean,
And when I hear him say that,
Well, no, because
when I
I'm
hear him say you can't park where you're at either, I start seeing like this guy is just spouting out directives that are not law. There's not legislation to support them. I've yet to find a legislation that supports what he's saying right now, that you can't park on the right of way in the area that she was parked on right there. She's off the road on a gravel, much like what we're standing on. And he kind of gives me an explanation, and then I don't feel like arguing. Pick and choose your battles.
Harry, you're over talking.
Oh, there's a guy that works for you, and y'all work together. So I was asking.
Who's that?
This is AJ from the economic department. Is he working with the city of Hobbs?
Okay, I can talk to him later. Right
Okay,
now.
he'll talk to you later. Okay, but I will tell him that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I
Sure, you don't want
asked
to
him
talk
if I
to
could,
his
and he
boss.
said as long as on right away, so I assumed that was
Right.
right away.
Yeah.
Leave me
That's
ignorant.
fine for right now until you
Don't
do it
advise
again.
me.
Oh yeah, I
Okay,
play.
so
hold on.
that is the I don't want to be advised that what I'm doing is violating someone's rights under the color of law, because then I could be held liable for it. My qualified immunity won't do me any good. So please don't tell me about it.
Understanding right here. Let me see what here is going on right now. This is not right of way here. Point your camera at it.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
not right of way.
So the shoulder right there, you cannot park there. The reason being because
Mind you, you did see that right there beside there on the other side of the same road is one of those parked vehicles with no hazards on.
at the distance between that white line and the shoulder right here.
I understand.
Okay, so if a car come and hits you, you're gonna be at fault for it. Okay?
She's waiting for you to show up. Now, what I'm wondering,
so
are you trying to catch her up by getting her to drive in front of you?
No.
Yeah, okay.
He's
You've
already
been
told me
talking
I'm
for a while,
fine
guys.
for right now until I
So
get
that's
it
why I
moved.
said-
Well, I don't know about you because this guy right here was
Sir,
hostile.
just wait. And
Yeah.
let me explain.
Okay.
Don't start jumping into a
No, I got
conversation
it.
which you weren't in yet.
Well, I
okay?
wanted to make. I was on the phone with AJ.
I understand
yeah.
that. I
And no
understand
one's doing anything nefarious.
That's why I'm
like,
explaining everything to her right now. Okay?
No one's doing anything
We're good right-
wrong. Like,
We are, yeah.
If you want to stand here, that's fine.
Sir,
I have no
shut
problem.
up.
I have no
I'm
problem. with that, but
ADHD, so I get it.
I don't want you to talk over me and try to jump into conclusions from what I'm trying
I'm
to
not
tell
that
her.
type of guy.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I will try.
Well,
I'll
you're
try
making it to that
Well, I
type
was
of
trying
guy,
to catch
okay?
you up on AJ's thing because I feel like he's above this, right?
I'm not worried about that guy.
Okay,
right now,
got it,
okay?
got it.
I'm worried about the situation here right now.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Oh, there's the van being there.
Yes.
Okay, so,
So just-
quick catch up.
He's not worried about that guy. He does not
it's
want
fine
to
for
hear.
right this second.
Yes.
Like I
This is the second one. Watch how they willfully ignorance. Marcus Juarez didn't want to talk to him. Didn't care who AJ was, and this guy is like, I don't care about that guy. They do not want to know the facts. They are trying to remain ignorant.
had planned to because I just needed to get dressed and do all my morning things and then leave. He's saying it's fine for right this second, but I do need to move it.
Have you filled him in on what's going on here? So
Hold on.
now it's very important to have qualitative data. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Again, does not want to know any of the facts. Just wants to be ignorant.
Okay.
Let me finish talking first.
And then I'll fill you in. Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Doesn't want to check GIS maps. Doesn't want to find out if it's public property. Literally wants to be ignorant.
So you're fine right now, okay? But you need to understand that you cannot park right there.
Right.
Long term, yeah.
68. So, you need to explain it to you, okay? So you cannot park on that shoulder right there, okay? The reason being is because it's not if you get a car comes down the street, it's a two-way street, okay?
Right.
All right, one lane going south, one lane going north. If a car hits you, you're gonna be at fault for it. The reason being is that's not an active shoulder where you can park.
Two city employees were sitting there yesterday.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's because they have hazard lights on.
No.
They have
They're just
everything like that,
two
okay?
white SUVs.
Okay. So you cannot park there, okay? The reason being is that shoulder is different from this shoulder. Look how the distance is from that white line.
So
to
can I
there.
just move it over here?
You
That
can.
shoulder's
Okay.
different
Okay.
from this shoulder.
Since you paid for parking over there, you can also park it over there.
Yeah, he's trying to
I
say.
asked him. Okay.
So we're
that's
trying
the thing.
so
That's the thing.
hard.
Hold on.
Go
Hold
ahead,
on.
go
We've
ahead.
been trying.
When we did first get
So you
here.
have an RV.
Yes.
Okay. Your RV allows you to park there.
Yeah.
And also, if you have a vehicle, you can park your vehicle there.
See, I asked that, and he told me because I told him I
And
had the
since you-
van and the
since you have a
trailer,
trailer,
and he
and
told me I'd have
I
to
don't-
pay for another spot.
That part I do not know. Okay. I just
No,
know
there's
I
public
just-
parking on public
just-
lots. So
I
let
just
me
I
play
just
it.
know that
Okay.
if you have a trailer spot rented, you can park a vehicle there.
Okay.
Now for your trailer, I don't know how that
It's
works.
a church
The
fundraiser.
reason-
so
But you're
The
saying I
reason-
can park here,
Yes.
just not over there.
Not only the reason
Oh,
being is I'm trying to
That's
I'm trying
fine.
to
I'll
save
just
you.
move it right over here.
I'm trying to save you from being a liability
No,
to
I
an
understand.
accident.
Got it.
I'm trying to explain to them that there's a van that carries the equipment, a church fundraiser that funds the church's efforts, and then a command center where the family stays in when we're on the road.
You're gonna pay for somebody else's
I
break.
fully understand.
I understand that
And
too.
I can
I
also
mean, now
see
I get it.
There's no lines over there.
Oh no,
and
I
now
know.
that I'm
I
looking, I
understand
can
what he's
see
saying
that.
perfectly now.
So
It's
that's
the distance from the shoulder to the.
that's the
yeah.
distance
Yeah.
between because the van's a little bit wider than a normal car.
I mean, they
Right.
won't hit a purple and pink van,
Exactly.
but
Well,
with a big reflector on the back.
But I can
saying,
understand
okay?
if there's cars
No,
coming
no.
both
As a
directions.
police
yeah.
officer, I 100% get it.
But
You're
at the same
certified,
time,
right?
Yes.
I can tell.
So at the same time, but you got to keep in mind, if the city employee or anybody asks you, can you move your vehicle from here?
Certainly.
Yeah.
Go ahead and move it. Don't give them no problems. Just
Right,
say,
yeah.
why can't I park it here for so many
We-
hours? It doesn't technically because that's the. I think that's the.
I feel like we need to
right here.
address the escalation.
Okay.
That's
But-
something we need to address, Marcus. Before
but
we end here, we need to address the
could-
escalation.
Hold on.
Yes.
So you can park it here, but if someone else asks you, hey, can you move? You can't park here.
Yeah.
Just ask them, okay, that's fine. Can I give me a few minutes or give me at least 30 minutes to move it
Yeah.
and get my things packed up and move out of
Not
the
be a
way.
butthead about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that way we don't get called out here or nothing
Yeah.
like that, okay?
Well, you look.
So-
I'll show you the video, bro. You should not have been called.
So-
like, there's no reason
so
you should have
here's-
been called.
So you can park it here, okay?
Okay.
Now,
Can I give you the qualitative data real quick so you can actually fill in?
Let him, I
I'm
think he
trying.
just has a couple more things to say. Let's finish that out real quick.
Be aware that all the signs leading to this spot here, it says runway.
Yeah.
And soaring society.
He goes 30
airway.
days a year they rent it.
Okay.
Just
because it's 30 days a year they rent it, it's still an active runway because it's a runoff.
It's only 30 days a year though.
No.
Okay, so
they
were wrong on
that.
that.
To talk about this runoff for American Airlines, which doesn't all airports are runoffs for any airplane that has to make an emergency stop. Just to be clear, that's FAA regulations, and there hasn't been an airplane that has landed there in years. So while he goes in to talk about the American Airlines runway, that's not an issue at all.
I gotcha. Let me hear you.
They're not wrong on it because they rent it. Okay,
right.
This is an airway.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a runoff airway
for
planes at the airport that cannot make it.
But nobody uses it except for them 30 days a year. That's what they were very specific about that.
They use it, okay? The one time other people use it is when the city uses it for 4th of July weekend.
No, Bob. Okay. They were using it all weekend, ATVs.
Okay, it's illegal to do it. But
he's the guy in the economic department said that they have no problem to do that.
So, no.
So you're law enforcement, so I mean.
We get caught out here.
He just said it's illegal to do it. Now, it might be illegal to do donuts and ride ATVs. There might be a city ordinance against using recreational vehicles like that anywhere in the city. I know that the people who were doing it did not look like they had ever seen any consequences for that or been told that they couldn't do that. I have yet to see the ordinance that suggests that what he's saying of it being illegal to do it is true. But with the amount of lies this guy tells in one conversation, I cannot have any anticipation that there's any truth to that either.
The two departments are not.
They're not coordinating well.
It's an active runway.
Okay.
It's a runaway route, basically for a car.
But it's never used.
It's never used. It's just there just in case if an airplane comes by.
So let's talk about qualitative data. Let's talk about that because that is qualitative data. So go ahead.
It's an active runway. That means that there's signs posted on every entrance to this runway.
Not there. There's nothing, Bob.
Hey, he don't want
saying
no
this
data.
is the one that does it.
Oh, but this is the one straight.
And somebody cut the lock.
So someone damaged property in order to open it up. Got it.
So here's the deal.
Got it.
There's a sign on every entrance from all the way down south.
More bull crap. He says that somebody cut the lock months ago and was never replaced. If this place was restricted, they would have replaced the lock.
Industrial all the way up.
Right.
Okay. The only entrances that are on this airway is for the shotgun club,
right?
Discus club or something like that, and the Solar Society area. Okay.
And they lease it for 30 days a year, but they use it all year long.
Stop this video.
The city worker advised me that the clock was.
I am going to stop this video. I've been doing this for about an hour and a half. My kids and my wife want me to take a break. I do want to get back to this. I feel like this middle of this officer interaction is a good place. Where it goes from here, let me go back to where you can see me. Where it goes from here is that all the investigative research that we have done from this point in time to this culmination of events where the Officer Vargas is explaining himself in a lot of random different ways, none of them being factual, about active runways and about how he later on you're going to see he believes that when something goes up for sale, it automatically becomes private property. So his mind says that when public property goes up for sale, it's now private property. It's all over the board. So this is about a 45-minute interaction here with Officer Vargas. And then we go on to the analytics within the cleaning up the data, where we're cleaning up the data we have already received. Because from this time, the time we started investigating, we were told by Marcus Juarez, the trail supervisor, that it was a federal land that was sold to anybody and anyone could have bought it. Then we were told by the EDC that it's open lands, and they showed us a map where it's open lands. Then we were told by Marcus Juarez again that he didn't care about what EDC says. The EDC says he can call who he needs to call. And then Matt Hughes says, I know the president of the EDC. I am Matt Hughes. And so next thing you know, they call the cops out of nowhere. Here comes Officer Vargas trying to figure this whole thing out. He don't know a quarter of the information that I know on the property, or even as much as the two guys who are maliciously depriving the rights through color of law. They don't know shit either. They've told me bull crap from the very beginning. So I've gone to the city hall. I've gotten the research done, but that escalates the situation further, simply for the fact that I know what I'm talking about and it's true, pisses these two arrogant buffoons off to the point that, well, let's watch the rest of this interaction.
Ago.
Okay.
Okay.
See, we asked him about this Friday. He didn't say nothing like that. Nothing.
Okay. So they advised me.
Or not Friday, but Thursday before we went to the EDC.
All right.
Friday,
so, listen,
because yeah.
Listen. The lock was cut a few months ago.
Okay.
They advised me the gate was shut. Whether it was shut or not, I don't know.
It wasn't shut when I saw it.
Whatever it is, I don't know.
With a state flag and thing in front of it, so it looks like inviting, you know.
So that state flag's on every single post around this park.
Because it's inviting. It's public property.
It's for the park, and it gives you something else to look at.
Okay? Well, it's a GIS map says it's public property. The GIS map says the city of Hobbs, public property.
So GIS is not always right, though.
Well, the cartographer of the city, I went to the economic development department. They told me all about it, man.
It sounds like your departments just aren't
coordinating.
Yeah,
because they're telling me all about. So which department's actually got the authority? That's the problem.
So if you look at every sign, even though whoever you spoke to over there at the economic department says it's public property, everything on these signs says it's
He didn't just say it. He showed it to me.
Okay, it's private property. It says it's posted all the way down. If you look at it,
private to who? Who's the private owner?
I have no idea.
It's not though.
But it says private property on there.
No, I definitely want to document that. Sure.
Okay.
I want to document that because
from this side.
Well, because the way this 2,480 acres is set up,
You're not even in trouble or nothing like that. Okay?
I wouldn't be. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm documenting the history of Hobbs. I'll be honest with you, Vargas. I'm an auditor, okay? And I don't audit police. That's not my auditing. I'm a data analyst that works with a lot of government officials.
I'm not in trouble, guys.
Political subdivisions as I go through. My main job is to work with a state post. Well, now that
I'm investigating them. And they're like, "Oh, you're not in trouble."
Law enforcement board commission. And I verify certifications through officers. That's my main gig. Outside of that, I work ministry work and missionary work. I've been with a church since 2002, and I travel the country doing missionary work. Well, along the way, we've seen political subdivisions that kind of don't follow legislation. Not saying you or the Hobbs or anything like that. I mean, we don't know whether they follow. You know, I mean, we until we get data. You know, qualitative data is captured at a time, and then we qualify the data after that. But what it looks like is that our political subdivisions that are doing things that are outside of legislation and outside of what they should be doing. And in terms of the Air Force Base, I didn't know existed until we were told by a cop in town, you should go to the park out there and check it out.
My mic was muted. Right here, I'm putting them a notice of what they're doing to American citizens. I'm just giving them notice that they have a wet floor in the back of the store and they need to put a wet floor sign up, because what you're doing here is depriving people of their rights to ingress and egress public lands as the Constitution 13th Amendment protects. What you're doing right here is using the color of law to deprive those rights, and you're conspiring with a civilian to do that. I'm trying to be as clear as possible. Watch.
We're like, this is great. Our kids love it, so it's nice out here. Hobbs is a nice community. We have very little complaints. I just noticed the Air Force Base. What's the history of this? B-17 bombers. We know the history of B-17 bombers, right? So that's interesting history. That's the Manhattan Project, one of the biggest pieces of American history. So I'm a history buff. I'm like, let's go and find out what's going on here. Get back there, and there's a sign that says campers pay at the station. I'm like, that's interesting. Was there camping on a nuclear installment or something, an old nuclear installment? What's going on here? And so then I went to the city hall. I got the book there's a whole book on it.
All right.
Read the book thoroughly to make sure
to be clear, what's going on right now is if you probably have seen it, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that there is a class action lawsuit against Camp Lejeune for contaminated water. If you've ever seen the movie Aaron Brockovich, starring Pretty Woman, and starring her, You might know about the cases in California dealing with the chromium that was found near the bases there. Now we're talking about a B-17 base that's training people how to fly the bomber jets, bomber planes that bombed with Little Boy and Big Boy. So it's a nuclear related base, and then they have the White Sands nuclear disposal right here, right in this area. So they're disposing of nuclear waste in this area. There's a training base, and then what they did is they put an RV park there on the training base that has full hookups. So what I'm really investigating, I'm trying not to disclose so much because it's really none of their damn business, is whether you have contaminated water coming from the water table, whether there is contaminated water in the sprinkler systems, because I can't drill, so I have to take it from the sprinkler systems. Whether there's contaminated water runoff when it rains, which it rained over last weekend. I was taking that data there. I do a 3D print of the topography so I can show where water runoff should be and where I could see what kind of mineral deposits there are, where the water has run down through and caught in the sediment of the soil. Those are things that we do in data gathering that they apparently have something to hide.
Understood the history of how the acreage was attained, the contracts through the Army Air Force, how long the contracts last. I actually did a public records request to get the lease between the Army Air Force and the city of Hobbs. So I should be picking that up by Tuesday, by tomorrow, I guess. And
Well, yeah, that's because they have the hazard lights on.
No,
they have
they're just
everything like that.
two white SUVs.
Okay.
Before we went to the EDC.
All right.
Friday
so,
because
listen.
Than just being complacent. Does that make?
I'm not streaming right now. I don't. Am I in? Is it in broadcast? I might be streaming right now. Actually, it says I'm live. Okay. I went back live, so I'm mute my mic.
Sense. So I'm not violating the law or violating the rules. It doesn't seem like I was violating it all at all. There no layman would have seen, and I could prove that because there's been traffic throughout the whole weekend. So the city locals, nor does anyone else have any reason to believe that would be blocked off to anybody. When I rode the scooter back there, there's things that say campers. I mean, there's literally signs that dictate it as a public space. So I go to the EDC and he says, yeah, you can rent it out. It's still active RV park. They have electricity over there. If you want to have a concert back there, we'll rent it to you for a concert. The Soaring Society rents it out for 30 days a year. And the Soaring Society is a private. So I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it sounds like private can use it as long as it's, within the rules and confines of the parks and regulations, because they have their own ordinances that gives them authority over parks and recreation. So then did the city of Hobbs designate that a park and recreation installment? Is that parks and recreations or is that just city?
So from my understanding, I'm not sure what the whole thing is.
It's for sale. Okay. So
I don't even know it's for sale.
It's for sale, yes, sir.
So I don't know that because there's no for sale sign.
But it is for sale. Okay. The Economic Development Department's been trying to sell it every day. It's posted on their wall. So it is for sale. It's fact.
So here we've got a situation where the guy is actually arguing the facts. So he don't know it's for sale. Like, all you've got to do, he works for the city. He's law enforcement. He's on a call concerning this property. All he has to do to find out whether this is public or private property is to call the code enforcement, the city attorney, the city manager, the engineering department. Check on arcgis.com. You pull up his phone and go to Regrid, OnX Hunt. I mean, I could give you a dozen or more ways to find out the survey lines and the ownership of a parcel of property in the United States of America. But what he does is none of those.
Like I said, I don't know.
That's quantitative data.
Like I said, I don't know because there's not a for sale sign here.
But I
don't go to the city hall every day.
You'll see the video on YouTube, man. It's for sale. I'll show you. It is for sale.
Listen what I'm telling you.
Okay, go ahead. But you don't know that yet, right now. I don't know that. Even when me telling it to you, it's because I'm just a person.
Because I don't go to the city hall. I don't have a city manager or anybody from the city.
Well, that's why I went there.
Tell me my briefings and tell me, hey, this is what's for sale. This is what private property is for sale.
Yeah.
This is what ends up being public property. We don't get that.
So if you, but now that you, let's assume that I'm not lying. Let's assume that I'm telling you the truth and that the quantitative data is correct. Because assuming the quantitative data is incorrect is a fallacy and makes everything an argument.
So if you want to assume that,
the quantitative data is correct.
If you want to assume that, let's assume this. If that's for sale, it's still private property. Why? Because the for sale sign means private property.
The public can sell.
So in order to,
I've got to address this. This is the dumbest thing that I've ever seen. And at one point in time in this conversation, I said, "You're certified, right?" He says, "Yes, I am." I'm like, "I can tell." Now, I can't tell because the data has not come back from New Mexico on who's certified and who's not. But if this guy is certified law enforcement in the state of New Mexico, then he really needs a refresher course.
That's not true. What you just said was factually false.
In order to gain access to a for sale property, you got to call the people up for
who is who.
So like if you're selling for a house.
Right, who is the sale? The seller.
Exactly, I don't know.
I do. I 100% know. It's the city of Hobbs.
Okay. Did you get permission from the city of Hobbs to get?
I don't need permission to be on public property.
So
as long as I'm following ordinances, as long as I'm following ordinances of the city.
This is something we see a lot of times in auditing videos, and I want to address it while we have this up. A city is a political entity, so it's articles of incorporations are filed for a city. but it literally is a representation of the residents of the area. There is no separate entity making something a city separate from its people. So a city encompasses the population of within its jurisdiction. It's not you don't get permission from a city to do things that are lawful.
So put it this way: if there's a house for sale, can you just walk in that house?
That's private.
The house.
Same thing with that.
No, that's public.
If it's for sale, it becomes private.
No, it's public land. It doesn't become private because it goes up for sale. That's not true.
So a house doesn't become private.
This a house is private. This is public land. It's always been public land. It was.
There's no trespassing signs. Does it say private property signs also?
From my understanding, from what the city worker says, it says no trespassing and private property on it.
I have to go check that out because it is public property according to the cartography.
Michelle did go and check. It doesn't say private property. There are some no trespassing signs by the hangars, like I mentioned earlier before my stream went out. There are some no trespassing signs by areas that are restricted and they're fenced off. There's nothing that says private property anywhere on that property, nor did I ever believe that this guy was telling the truth.
Photographer is public property. So it is my duty to understand what the city of Hobbs is doing, because you got to understand, if you go back to the beginning of this property, right, in 1942, they took it from the Hustons. The Hustons were one of the original families here.
Education lesson. Watch the cop. The same way Marcus Juarez earlier was like, I do. Can't believe this guy's going to tell me something about the history of the political subdivision that I work in. This guy is going to do the same damn thing. And show absolute disregard for any desire to learn about the history of the place he works for.
So 1907, before
I don't know none of that.
I know nobody cares about the Hustons anymore. I get it. They just took their land. I get it.
I mean, I'm not even from New Mexico, so I
get. I'm not from New Mexico, but I still appreciate the history of New Mexico. I mean, especially if I lived in a political subdivision in New Mexico, I would know the history of that political subdivision, especially if it was expanding the subdivision by 7 miles.
It's sad.
Is this private property or?
Yeah, he asked. So he asked this Matt Hughes guy, who's a supervisor for the parks and open spaces. He asked Matt Hughes if it's public property. That's the question. Is this public property? The answer to that question is yes. But Matt Hughes cannot say that word. Instead,
I know you're public employee doing public work. This is all part of it.
So he's saying it's public property. He can go on there anytime he wants. That's what he's basically saying.
I didn't say that exactly, but sort of.
I heard you tell him that.
I didn't say those words, but sort of.
He heard me tell him that.
As long as you don't designate it for something.
Like an asshole. You watch, he just starts out like an asshole.
Runway.
That's what I explained to him.
He'll tell you why.
And you cannot have vehicles on it.
So when is it active? Because I was told by the EDC.
Runway.
What he just said was you cannot have vehicles on it. Period.
Anytime.
Okay, so when is it physically active?
Let him explain.
It is physically, yeah. You need to be quiet right now and let me talk. Okay.
So that's the second time Matt Hughes, as a civilian, has hushed me and shushed me while he's telling me bullshit lies.
Please.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
I'll give you that courtesy as long as you give it to me too. After.
I will, most
I lied to him. I go to jail for it.
So it is always active. So an airplane can land on this runway.
Okay.
If it needs to at any time.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually hangars down here that individuals have their airplanes in, so they can use this runway at any time.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it is active at all times.
Okay.
And there are signs posted throughout this property that say it is an active runway.
There are?
No, but there's not.
Where are those?
Where this right here.
Okay.
Because this gate is generally locked.
That's what
somebody has cut this.
So it was done without your permission or without whoever's authority of it.
I don't open locks by cutting.
Right.
It's a combination.
Right.
So if you go down this next road right here, this next entrance, there are signs up that say active runway.
Okay.
No vehicle traffic.
Okay.
Okay.
No,
and
so
that was my
maybe
first
down
point
there
that I made to you on the phone when you were talking to him.
Yeah.
That's why your vehicle, number one, cannot be out there because it is an active runway. If you were pulling off and a plane was coming in, guess whose fault that is? That is yours.
If I was pulling off and a plane was coming
If you
in.
were pulling out and a plane was coming in and they had contact with you.
When's the last time a plane came in right here?
Shoot, there's planes.
It came in right here.
that came in all through here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it came right there.
I couldn't tell you when, but that's not the point.
Can't tell you.
It's
it's not the point.
runway.
Okay, so active being used as a legal term
Yes,
instead of as a technical term.
it
as a
is
legal
an
term.
active runway.
We're not looking at Webster's definition. We're looking at like a
I
legal. And the reason I ask is EDC. I'll tell you why. Because EDC.
You know what? I talked to the EDC.
Yeah, I
too.
just talked to AZ after you talked to
Right,
him.
right.
Yeah.
And you lied to me.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I did
You
not.
told me that AJ told you could park out there.
I didn't say specifically. He said like a park.
you did.
The words.
No, sir.
The specific term he could park.
You told me that AJ told.
This dude has lacked integrity and honor through his entire event. Okay, Marcus Juarez has lacked integrity and honor through his entire event, his entire investigation. There are other city employees like the fire marshal that you saw that have lacked integrity and honor through his entire investigation. What I have maintained through his entire investigation was cordial, inquisitive, and respectful presence. Now, do I like being lied to? No, I don't like being lied to. Who does? Do I like being lied to about by city officials that shouldn't be lying to me about this thing that I'm investigating? No, it's insulting, and it shows a lot about their integrity. But at no point in time have I told these guys fibs. And he's like, well, let me show you how your integrity sucks. Out of nowhere. Watch him.
You could park out there.
I have it on
guess what?
video. I mean, I could prove it. I'll be happy to submit it as evidence. It'll be on
That's fine. There's not
YouTube. I
gonna be
mean,
any evidence about
it'll be
this.
on YouTube.
There's gonna be. Oh, am I supposed to be scared?
No, it's not. Nobody's supposed to be scared as long as we're doing our jobs right. Why would anybody be scared?
We are doing our jobs right because we're
why
trying to
would we
protect
be
you, and we're especially trying to protect her.
I believe that.
Because I believe
maybe.
that's your vehicle.
All right.
So I'm trying to.
So he's trying to protect me, but even more so, this other citizen. That's great.
Protect her
Again?
because I don't want her to get hit by a plane. Possibly.
Now, what, is that really a realistic possibility?
Yes, that is definitely
It's not.
realistic.
It's a plausibility.
I've seen planes in here all the time. No,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Oh, no, hold on. Yes, you
I
may
just wanted to
definitely
say,
speak.
All the time.
I don't think that he intentionally lied because I was at that conversation too.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
think
just
that
so
it
you
was a
if you didn't
wrong
catch it, when she says, may I say something? When Michelle says, may I say something? This guy says no. You know what I mean? I like, so the hell yeah, you can say, who the hell is this guy telling a grown adult and in cordial conversation that she can't speak? He has a bad habit of doing that. You've seen as a third time he's done that between me and Michelle.
Because of the conversation that was going. We weren't trying to violate any rules.
No.
And we weren't trying to get AJ in trouble or we weren't trying
Nope.
to make y'all mad. It was
Nope.
literally a wrong assumption. And as soon as he came and told me I had to
It
move,
wasn't a wrong
I
assumption.
moved it.
Correct.
It wasn't.
And I'm
a
moving
wrong
from
You
there
want me
to
to-
over
I'll
here.
tell you where-
individual here, whoever he is to you, is.
Let's talk about
Whoever
lying
is-
real quick.
So no,
Should be-
sir,
Yo, 'cause
please
this-
listen to me
Clear up the
again.
line.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go back where I was.
That was my first point that I'm.
So when she says, he says, this individual, whoever he is to you, those are those sly comments. I got friends in low places too there, Bob. You ain't one of them. Let's go. I
You
thought
on the phone when you were talking to him.
Yeah.
That's why your vehicle, number one, cannot be out there because it is an active runway. If you were pulling off,
I'm going back a little
The
bit.
husband's property back in 1942. After
Oh yeah, this is where
the
they don't want to hear it either.
cartographer is public property. So it is my duty to understand what the city of Hobbs, the cartographer, is public property.
Bear with me while I
Moved
find
it.
it.
Correct.
And I've been
And
moving
then-
from
You
there
want me
to
to-
over
I'll
here.
tell you where.
individual here, whoever he is to you,
Whoever
is-
it is.
Let's talk about lying real quick.
So no, sir.
Yo, 'cause
Please
this-
listen to me again.
You
because
you
I'm
don't
not
have
done.
you don't have a lawful authority to
not
shut me
done.
up. It's called First Amendment,
I'm
sir.
not done.
You don't have a
Go
lawful.
back to the original conversation we
The
had.
original was with him.
You
So the
know-
original conversation. Let's talk about
You
it.
know that this
He
is an
told me this was
active
federal
runway,
property that was sold on private
that
sale.
This is
Did you not?
active runway.
Is that what you told me?
This was last Friday. You were asking
You
about
told me it was federal property that anyone could have bought, but the city of Hobbs bought it, right? That was you.
I told you that's what I thought. Yes.
Okay, good. So that's my first assumption. When I do a GIS check and I do a background check on this, because I am an auditor, and I do data analytics. That's what I do. I might not wear the clothes you want me to wear. I might not drive the truck you want me to drive. But that's what I do for a living. So what I checked was the GIS cartographer map. It shows this as the city of Hobbs. I'm like, well, that's interesting. How did the federal property convert into a political subdivision? I think that's a really good question for Americans, right? So what I find out through the research is that it was never a federal property. That the government of the Hobbs, the city of Hobbs, took the Huston's property back in 1942. After 3 days after the bomb drop, Eisenhower wanted somebody to have B-17 airfields, okay? And they took the land and threatened condemnation, which is a black mark on a city. Now, I don't know why that's not known by everybody. That's what's happened here. The federal government gave a 25-year lease for $1 a year in order to bring the Air Force Base into here. All right. After that 25-year lease, I still don't know what the disposition of the land should have been. But it wasn't given back to the Huston family.
Imagine it given back to the Huston.
It wasn't. Right? What it was done was, the Huston family was relocated out there where the racetrack is now, in a casino. And the land was turned into public property, which was used for affordable RV parking during the beatnik era, which is the 50s. Now, you wouldn't call your grandma living in her retirement RV a secondary citizen, would you? Because she sold her house and bought an RV. But you somehow have some kind of bias against 30 and 40.
I gotta check something. I just brought up something. The casino in New Mexico, doesn't it have to be on tribal land? Like, I know California it does. If you know the answer to that comment, please comment. But the fact that there's casinos sitting on land that the Hustons were homesteaders, were relocated to in order for them to take this land from them, and then apparently that land was taken from them at some point in time. It's all since 1942, and it's turned into a racetrack and casino. That's another thing. Is that I don't know about New Mexico laws, but the Hustons were Native Americans. That's not a reservation. That was. Or did they move the Hustons to reservation land? I don't know.
Year-olds who have RV lifestyles. And I don't know what it is, but I heard it also from another gentleman. I could tell it from, I've been body cameraing the whole time. You have a bias against people who live the way we do. What else? Why else would you act like that?
Like how, sir?
You've been condescending and arrogant since the day I met you for no reason whatsoever.
That's not true at all, because I was
you weren't there.
Yes, I was.
Oh, you in the back there?
I was there watching.
Okay, I did see you standing back there.
You didn't hear any of that.
Well, he told me a lie. It wasn't federal property. He said he thought it was, but that initiated the investigation. So we're talking about what.
He was having a conversation.
So I followed up, but I didn't call the cops to follow up. Okay, I followed up by doing my research. It seems like you're violating the rights of American citizens. That's what it looks like.
I came out here to
parked on private property.
It's not private property. It's the city of Hobbs property. That is public easement.
It is an active runway.
It is an active
runway.
But the EDC says it's only active when a soaring society rents it out 30 days a year. What you're saying is inconsistent with what the county's saying.
It is an active runway.
I'll tell you what AJ did say. The only time that runway is used is once a year where the Sorghum Society is, and you could rent it out as a concert if you want to have a concert there. That you could rent it out for a party.
There's people that have hangars down there that have
planes
in them.
Sure. Sorghum Society?
No.
Just other people. Private.
What happens when that airplane wants to land or wants to utilize the runway?
I mean, I don't know how that's done because I've never been on a runway when an airplane wants to leave, so I can't tell you how that's done.
It's called an active runway.
Yeah, so
those people can come in and out whenever they want.
Well, I have not researched the active runway part.
Awesome.
I did ask. Well, I do remember. I think AJ might have used the word active runway. So I had to review my video to find out that's
later on in his investigation. I did investigate the active runway part. He's full of baloney. It's just in there so deep now he doesn't know how to get it out. So I think he's found himself a very nice and serene place with his head right up his butt. That's what's going on here.
That's what he used. Do what? He said there's two. There was an active runway in the back, a big one.
One's active and one's not.
Yes. One's active and one's not, is what he told
The
me.
one that's not active is the one over there by the prison.
Okay, nobody wants to be by prisons anyway.
Okay, so that's
okay. So we haven't even got to the prison question. So basically, land that was federal land belonged to the American people was converted into a political subdivision.
So I don't
All right,
know that.
that's not your job to know. It's not your job to know, or your job to know. I ain't mad at you for it. But when I'm trying to figure out, and I go to the city hall to get the information of how this phenomenon could possibly happen, because 10 years ago, as you said, there was interest from private parties who owned RV parks within a political subdivision. This is what you told me. to lobby against that the putting money into this electricity and things that might have had been done to upgrade that to make it livable still, because they were not able to compete with the way the city could run it. The competition. I don't quite verbatim quote you, but that.
So that's why we shut this RV park down right here.
Because of
stop right there. Here, Matt Hughes, right here. He says the political lobbyism within the private sector from private property owners that were using for RV lots. The pressure they were getting is the reason they shut down that RV park that didn't have a limit to the time to stay there. That was their reasoning. Matt Hughes just said that very clear as day, right? So let's go forward.
Because of private lobbyism.
No, because we were competing with private entities.
This wasn't even part of the city until you annexed it from a federal contract.
We've had this. This has been
since you stole from the Hustons.
This has been part of the city
since the governor from London, Ohio, made all Hobbs, new Hobbs, and Hobbs.
Awesome that you're able to do Google research.
It's not Google research. It's reading like PDFs. You don't like to put it on Google. I wish you would.
As a city, we shut this down because we don't want to compete against private entities. That's not our job. Is to compete against private entities.
You have to provide public resources.
That's why we have this.
I'm not. There's no complaints about this.
This over here
This is why we have this. This is why we have this nice park over here that was on state land, where there is no camping on state land in New Mexico. But that's why we have this state land and this nice park over here, so you can pay $18 a day and stay up for only 2 weeks. But you can't use the long-term park back there that was cheaper because it competes with private businesses. Later on in his investigation, you'll see who he's talking about by private businesses. But the commissioner of this area, Roy Dwayne Pinnick, P-E-N-I-C-K, is one of those private investors.
And see, by doing that, we were competing with the other RV parks in town.
The government can't compete against private business.
Exactly.
So that's why we closed.
Technically can't.
So that's why we closed.
Technically can't. One day public resource.
Well, I mean, do I agree?
Well, I'm not asking you.
I don't know. I haven't researched it deep enough to find out why.
I'm saying that the public votes on public resources, and they use public resources at will, respecting certain regulations and rules of those. Private business can dump a bunch of money into something and make the amenities worth the money, and definitely do that better than any state park could under a public budget. They can provide entertainment. They can decide who comes and goes. They can dictate the profitability of their business, whereas a public entity cannot. So I definitely meant this in a very different way than he took it.
So maybe you should do some research on that.
I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not being condescending.
Let's go back to the very original thing.
That was the original thing.
It is the original point is that's an active runway.
Okay, if that's fact.
Yes, it is a fact.
Okay.
It's an active runway.
So that makes an ordinance against using it, right?
It's posted as an active runway, no vehicles.
If I say it enough times,
but that would be blanket. So why were there? Let me ask you this question. So AJ and EDC said people go out there and do donuts all the time. They ride. Hey, hold on. That's not all he said.
When you hear that crackling, that's the Wi-Fi here at the McAdams Park RV park that he's talking about, the nice RV park. It's crackling because I'm attached to their Wi-Fi right now, and it does that.
He said they go out there, race it. The CDLs even have a driving thing out here where the CDL drivers are trained to drive.
Down on that end.
But is that still part of the same parcel?
No.
It's not part of the same parcel.
So, watch the wording. Down on that end. When someone says that down on that end, the words typically mean the end of a parcel, or let's say a parcel that we're discussing at some area of the parcel. It doesn't typically lead one to believe that you're talking about an entirely different parcel now, does it?
Then that's the parcel.
East-west,
that's the parcel.
That's a different part.
So not on this parcel.
The New Mexico Junior College they do practicing for CDL
because
right there.
AJ said he did miscommunication. He said that they use this parcel right back here for CDL training.
They use a parcel all the way down at
down there and a parcel down this way
on the east-west.
But so CDLs don't use this parcel at all. It's 2,480 acres here.
This is an active runway.
Got it. But I'm hearing what you're saying. Now, over the weekend, there was ATVs going through there. There were government vehicles. There were regular private vehicles.
There's ATVs running down our trail down there too, and it's
they looked very comfortable.
Well, you know what? It's because our officers are 30 employees down right now, and we cannot police everybody.
Makes sense. So the facts are there's no trespassing sign. There's a state sign right here. There's an open entrance. There's a sign right there that says camper sign in at pay station.
Entrance was open.
But it was open when I got here, and it was never closed.
That still makes it okay.
If it's open, unless there's no trespassing sign, nobody knows it's supposed to be closed.
Let me ask you a theoretical question. If your camper is open, can I go into it?
That's private property. This is public property.
You don't understand the difference.
It still had a lock on it.
It did, but no, it didn't. I didn't look at what it was on the gate. It was open. I was riding a scooter. Yeah, I was riding a scooter.
You just drove right on.
I was on a scooter. I was documenting the area because it was a pretty area. I do that. I document America. Yeah, I was riding a scooter. There's no trespassing signs. It's not locked.
I've seen you around town living in all the parking lots. I have.
When you document a city, you stop places and document the city. That's how the same parcel.
Then they practice.
All right, I want y'all to pay attention to this part right here. I mean, this is important because it's very seldom that we can prove motive. Motive is something that is very individual, and data itself can't usually prove motive. Now, we can prove, we can show intent through qualitative data and a large amount of it, which is what I try to do with these long interactions and interviews with public officials. But what you're going to find out right here was this is the second public official that's going to mention the bias they have toward the wagon and carriage lifestyle. Earlier, you heard Kevin, and if you haven't, the whole thing is on YouTube, but you heard Kevin from the engineering department say that we didn't want to incentivize full-time RV lifestyles. And here you're going to hear where, and then you heard him say that we shut it down due to private lobbyism from private RV parks. And now you're going to hear him say his personal feelings about us personally, because we're the one interacting with them, and apparently we were offending him while we were gathering the data from inside the city before we moved out to this area to gather the data on this project.
Then that's the parcel.
East-west,
that's the parcel.
That's a different part.
So not on this parcel.
The New Mexico Junior College.
Okay.
They do practicing for CDL
because
right there.
AJ said he did miscommunication. He said that they use this parcel right back here for CDL training.
They use a parcel all the way down at
down there and a parcel down this way.
On the east-west.
But so CDLs don't use this parcel at all. There's 2,480 acres here.
This is an active runway.
Got it. But I'm hearing what you're saying. Now, over the weekend, there was ATVs going through there. There were government vehicles. There were regular private vehicles.
There's ATVs running down our trail down there too, and it's
they looked very comfortable.
Well, you know what? It's because our officers are 30 employees down right now, and we cannot police everybody.
Makes sense. So the facts are there's no trespassing sign. There's a state sign right here. There's an open entrance. There's a sign right there that says camper sign in at pay station.
Entrance was open.
But it was open when I got here, and it was never closed.
That still makes it okay.
If it's open, unless there's no trespassing sign, nobody knows it's supposed to be closed.
Let me ask you a theoretical question. If your camper is open, can I go into it?
That's private property. This is public property.
And when I school them on public property.
But no, it didn't. I didn't look at what it was on the gate. It was open. I was riding a scooter. Yeah, I was riding a scooter.
You just drove right on.
I was on a scooter. I was documenting the area because it was a pretty area. I do that. I document America. Yeah, I was riding a scooter. There's no trespassing signs. It's not locked.
I've seen you around town living in all the parking lots. I have.
When you document a city, you stop places and document the city. That's how you properly get qualitative data, so you can do it.
We stayed in 4 parking lots over a period of a week for about a little less 24 hours while I gather the data, and then I have to put it on a computer, on a data banks, file it all, create all the videos, upload all the videos. And I can't do that while I'm on the move. So I do park and do that at times. And that's where he must think that I'm one of those people that will stay back in the RV park that he don't want open.
Proper analysis of the city.
Okay.
So that's what I do for a living, but I appreciate you being condescending toward my job. I think I probably pay better than you do doing it.
I probably don't.
I don't waste my money, but you probably waste yours. I own property a lot of places. How many properties do you own? Since you want to be condescending.
Wow.
Right.
How about we
no one's broke any laws.
Good here.
I'm good here.
Thank you. And Matt, I'm not trying to offend you at all.
You have completely offended.
You've offended the American people right now. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Have a good day, Matt. Have a good day. What was your name again? Marcus. I remember. I just wanted to see if I don't want to address you as sir. If you like Marcus.
Dynamic duo.
Y'all have a beautiful day. God bless.
It's like
they took offense to the research. So there's no doubt that they were offended, Michelle, in Vargas. There's no doubt they're offended by the research. If you know something that they don't know, they're offended by the research.
I'm good.
God bless, sir. And sir, for the record, according to the City of Hobbs law enforcement community, this area right here is private property or off limits according to an ordinance, or zoned off limits, or
according to us, as
yeah,
far as we know,
because he's not law enforcement.
Private property, no trespassing.
That's what you got.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So you heard it, guys. According to the City of.
So that's the end of the interaction with the cop. He sticks around while they put a new padlock on the gate we're referring to, and then I go to do my analytics work again and start calling city manager and commissioners to find out exactly what is going on here, because obviously the law enforcement department is working under the color of law based on complete fabricated data that's not even being investigated. So I like to say good old boy system, but it'd be more accurate, be bad old boy system. No one is acting with any integrity here or showing competence at their jobs. And I'm gonna get back to this video. We still have a couple hours left of it. I've been doing this stream now for several hours. I'm going to end this portion of it and let you see the rest of it when I come back to it. It literally gets better. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but it gets better. If you're interested in this sort of stuff and the lands in America and how political subdivisions abuse their powers and on so many levels, this is the channel for you. That we don't just audit. We collect data, we analyze the data, we follow up on the data, and to be honest with you, there have been times that we've had to file tort claims. I don't like doing that. I really would rather America function by the will of the people and by the legislation therein. I don't like asking for mediation to protect my constitutional rights, especially against those who are sworn to uphold them. It's really insulting to the city. It's insulting to political subdivisions. It's insulting to our government. It's insulting to our culture. And that's why I do what we do here. I look forward to talking to you soon in the next video. I'll do that this evening after I've spent some time with the kids. It's John Ryan, auditarchives.com. I love you very much, and y'all have a grateful day.